activities and practices related to the urban sector. The initiative was formally inaugurated by Shri M.B. Rajesh, Honorable Minister for LSGD and Excise, Government of Kerala on May 17th, 2023. This initiative by KILA ultimately aims to stimulate debates on the crucial topics that are instrumental in reshaping Kerala's urban landscape and consequently informing the Kerala urban policy that is in the making right now. The theme for today's session, waste management and in urban Kerala, challenges and way ahead. This session will focus on urban waste management, exploring the urgent challenges and innovations relevant to the Indian landscape, with particular emphasis on Kerala's Malinyamuktham Navakeralam campaign. The campaign was a pioneering initiative to create a waste-free Kerala. Is at the forefront of the state's efforts to address one of the most pressing environmental concerns of our time. So we are hoping that this session of the Kerala Urban Dialogues will serve as a vital platform to exchange knowledge and insights on innovative waste management practices. The session would also try to explore how Kerala's experiences align with the broader trends and challenges in India's urban waste management landscape. We'll not only examine the strides made, but also critically evaluate the obstacles that remain, from inadequate infrastructure to policy implementation challenges. Through this dialogue, KILA aims to inspire action and collaboration that can contribute to solving the urban waste crisis in Kerala and beyond. So before we proceed to the main session, I would like to extend a very warm welcome to all our esteemed guests. We have with us a very diverse group of experts and practitioners. I also extend a warm welcome to the representatives from our academic and global policy partners. I would now like to invite my colleague, Shahban, who is an urban fellow at KILA, to give the welcome address.
Thank you, Anmeria. And good afternoon, everyone. On behalf of Kerala Institute of Local Administration, it is my great pleasure to welcome you all to the 14th session of Kerala Urban Dialogues. Today's discussion is centered around a crucial and timely theme, waste management in urban Kerala, challenges and way around. And urban waste management is one of the most pressing challenges of our time, especially as our cities continues to grow and urbanization accelerates. In Kerala, as in many other parts of the world, we face the dual task of managing increasing volume of waste while also addressing environmental and public health concerns. Today's session will focus on innovative approaches, strategies, and best practices that can help transform our cities into cleaner, more sustainable urban spaces. We are deeply honored to have with us a distinguished panel of experts, practitioners, and thought leaders who will share their insights and opportunities in waste management within the Indian and Kerala context. I would also like to warmly welcome our discussant, Srimati Shobha Raghavan, Chief Operating Officer of Saahas Zero Waste, and Srimati Latha Raman, co-founder of Inspiration Collective, Kochi, who will contribute their extensive expertise on practical waste management innovations. The Malinyamuktham Navakeralam campaign, as all of you know, it is an ambitious initiative by the local self-government department that aims to transform Kerala into a garbage-free state. Advocate Neha Kurian, legal coordinator of the campaign, will provide an overview of the project and share her insights and experience gained from working on this significant initiative. This dialogue aims not only to address the challenges, but also to inspire actions, collaborations, and sustainable strategies for waste management. I encourage each one of you to engage actively in today's discussion, as your contribution will be invaluable in shaping the way forward. Thank you for all being here, and I look forward for an insightful and productive session. Thank you.
So thanks a lot, Shahban. So we have planned today's session with a panel discussion, which will be followed by a Q&A session. The participants may avail the Zoom chat box to raise questions during the discussion. So I'm extremely honored to invite Sri U.V. Jose sir to give the opening remarks for this session. U.V. Jose sir is a retired IAS officer who served as the Deputy Project Director of Kerala Solid Waste Management Project. He is currently the Executive Director of Suchitwa Mission. Sri Jose sir is a civil engineer with an MBA and a master's degree in regional planning from the School of Planning and Architecture, New Delhi, and has done the course in Executive Development Institute in Tourism course at the University of Hawaii, USA. Through innovative development strategies, he has contributed significantly in positioning Kerala as a leading tourist destination in the country. Thank you so much, sir, for spending your precious time with us today. Over to you, sir, for the opening remarks.
Thanks a lot, and thank you for KILA for inviting me for this session. And I think this is a very, very important session, especially because we are embarking on a very ambitious, campaign from October 2nd, Malinyamuktham Navakeralam Janakiya campaign. We have been doing the campaign, under the leadership of Honorable Minister for LSTD for the last 1 year, and Minister and Additional Chief Secretary, the present Chief Secretary Sharada Ma'am, for the last 1 year after, after the Brahmapuram fire happened in March 2023. And if we actually go through the results, it's very encouraging. A lot of things were happening, especially in the scenario of developing infrastructure and system within the local bodies, not only urban local bodies but also the rural local bodies and across the state. A lot of good things happened, but still, the challenge, still the waste management sector is considered as the most challenging sector in the state as of now. I'm actually trying to kind of look into what are the main reasons for this situation from my experience. If you actually see the numbers before, before getting into the reasons, I would like to actually share a few numbers on waste management, because that will give us some sort of basis on which, to understand what we are talking. In the urban scenario, the total waste generated, and these numbers are all, these are all not projected numbers. Basically, these numbers you will see in different studies, different numbers, but I am actually now depending upon the surveys which are happening through KSWMP in urban local bodies, the field surveys, and the resulted the quantities, and also the projections which are accepted by the government of India, etc. So if you consider those things as the basis, we can actually see that the total waste generated, I'm talking about the solid waste management, and the total waste generated in urban local bodies comes to around 3,200 tons per day. And out of that, 70% is considered. That is again an average, because it varies from cities to cities. It actually vary. From small cities to big cities, the quantity of biodegradable waste goes down and the non-biodegradable waste goes up. That is a trend, and it is the same here also. That is what the data shows. So, but on an average, it's 70% is biodegradable waste, which comes to around 20 to 30 tons per day, 2,230. And non-biodegradable is 25%, which comes to around 800 tons per day, and 5% inert, which comes to 160 tons per day. So this is the kind of overall number, which we will have to actually deal. Now the question is, when we say biodegradable 70%, and it's a huge number, 2,200 tons per day in the state. Now the question before us is, how much of that quantity is now really processed. Okay, now, I have no clear answer to this. Again, the numbers actually coming out are all different. We can only base on the infrastructure which is created in the field, and the actual use of the infrastructure need to be verified. That a process is going on now, that verification, and I am actually now giving this number. It's again an approximate number, considering the source level as well as the community level facilities which have been put into kind of operation. Now the process quantity of biodegradable waste is around 50%, we can say. But that 50% comprises of the source level, the biobins and various, the processing units supplied to the households. And you all know, whoever is participating, you all know what percentage of that is being used. Maybe some of you at least will be having the same given to you by the local body and yet to be used or used for some time, and left it there, or being used for some other purpose. So it's all happening in the field. Okay, so I am actually telling this around 50% is, is based on what is supplied, assuming that, yeah, almost 80 to 100% of that is working, which is not true. But the actual number we should be able to tell you in another few months, because that survey, we are planning to do that survey through the Haritha map, in every household, how many of them are functioning. So in a nutshell, the biodegradable waste management in the state, even in the urban area or in the rural area, is, there's a lot of gap remaining. uh, I'm not getting into the strategies now, I'm just talking about the number. But then the non-biodegradable waste, we have actually done tremendous work last 1 year, a lot of work. Okay, that is irrespective of urban or rural, and some of the rural local bodies are doing extremely good. Almost 100% households are being managed through the process. And the process comprises of the Haritha Karma Sena, trained Haritha Karma Sena, going to houses, and the households, the common people have been actually trained for segregation of bio and non-bio, and the non-bio is collected and then transported to kind of either in a temporary mini MCF, or to the material collection facility MCF, and then to the forward linkage, either to the RRF or directly to the forward linkage agency like Clean Kerala Company, or the empaneled agencies which are there, which are there in the state. Around 26 agencies have been now empaneled to take care of that forward linkage from the material collection facility to the disposal or recycling plant. So that is more or less, it's actually going on well. Lot of fine tuning is needed, and need to be, need to have the saturation to 100%. Now if you see the numbers again, the collection, overall state level collection, now say non-biodegradable is around 86%, and in the urban area it is just less than 80%. So that means the rural area is performing better than the urban area, and because rural problems are little complex and things like that. So but still, a lot of progress last 1 year in that. Haritha Karma Sena is, we have around 7,600 Haritha Karma Sena, plus for around 5,000 contingent workers, from CLR workers 1,700. So around 15,000 people are working in urban area on the waste management, which is not a very small number. Okay, reasonably decent number. Around 15,000 workers are there in the in waste management in the on the field. And we have, in urban area, we have around 2,000 mini MCFs, that is a temporary storage facility, 171 material collection facilities, 78 RRFs, resource recovery facilities of around 60,000 square meter, which is actually 60,000 square meter processing area means, if you actually consider the quantum of waste generated, we're almost, we have sufficient. I am not telling that it's not enough. We have enough, but just sufficient area for the storage. But now everyone is, if somebody goes to the field and see, you can actually point out lot of gaps. Okay, in every step, lot of gap is there for fine tuning. That is what the Malinyamuktham Navakeralam Janagiya campaign is actually looking for, fine tuning that saturation and sustainability, before next March. That is the target. But a lot of good things are happening there. And you all know, you must be knowing that we have an excellent app, now managed by IKM, earlier developed by Cultron, Kerala mission and Suchitwa mission initiative. It's actually now covering 90 lakh plus households, or units, basically households and other unit. 90 lakhs subscribers for her the Mitra map. That means almost, it's nearing to 100% coverage. And through that only we are actually monitoring. And therefore there is no, now the data is also getting validated through the IT, using IT. So that also is happening. We have done act amendments that Neha is talking to you on, what is happening in that front. We have vigilance squad inspecting. We also now, recently deployed a single WhatsApp number where, if somebody is if somebody finds throwing waste or any unauthorized activity on waste management, they can just take photos and then send it, and then they also will be rewarded based on the fine which is being actually given to the culprit. So all these are happening in the solid waste management. But I will now come to the problem area. Now if you see some numbers in the liquid waste management, because solid waste management, when we say, we always tend to hide the liquid waste management part. It's again very very important sector, but we are not very sure how much the local bodies, whether it is urban or rural, how much importance they are giving on, because that is happening. Most of the problem is happening in the below the ground level. So to the water, to the groundwater, to the surface water, etc. And we are in a very very serious situation as far as the liquid waste, or the latest they say it's not liquid waste but used water management scenario. We are in a very very difficult position, nationally or internationally. Wherever you go, wherever we go for discussion on used water management, Kerala cannot now lift their head and then stand in any forum. Okay, we are in a very very bad situation. See, in urban scenario, there's around 1,000 MLD, million liters per day is MLD is the quantity of total waste generated. 1,018 to the precise, as far as the the number is concerned. And if you see all the STPs in the state, we have a capacity of 235 MLD. Okay, that is including the 107 MLD plant which is there in Muttatara, Trivandrum. Including that, 235 is including 107. But please understand, out of 107, only 50% of that is being used because of the network issues. We don't have network. So we have a very big gap there. But to, the Suchitwa mission, and as far as the urban local bodies are concerned, now the most problematic area within the sewerage, this thing is the fecal sludge management, FSM. Okay, fecal sludge management, and the state government is now giving a lot of focus to that, because we are too much dependent on the septic tank. Wherever we go for the discussion, we say that we have septic tank which takes care of this thing, but that nobody is going to now, agree that the septic tank of us is actually managing the situation, because as per the rules, is concerned, the regulations are concerned, guidelines are concerned, we have around, the septic tanks need to be desludged within 3 to 5 years. It has to be desludged. And we in the state, Keralites believe that one, but the septic tank is for all, once it is constructed, it is for the whole this thing, so lifelong. So that is our kind of thinking. But the fact is that these septic tanks are no more septic tanks, so therefore we need to desludge, and for desludging, to practice that, we need the FSTPs, fecal sludge treatment plant, and that is what now Kerala government is looking for and focusing. We have a current capacity of 220 KLD, not MLD, KLD in FSTP, and around 40 FSTPs are in pipeline. We are also now focusing and promoting mobile FSTPs. There are 4 numbers already now working, and number of MTUs are in the pipeline. So this is the scenario now, the solid and liquid. Now the liquid, as I said, there are a lot of gaps and a lot of things have to be done. Solid, yeah, on NBD we are actually doing good things, but biodegradable waste, there is a lot of gap, and in the NBD we have to have the saturation and sustainability part. Now, even after doing all these things, as I said, still the sector is, the most challenging sector in the state. Okay, most challenging. And what is the reason? What could be the reasons? I was actually trying to understand what could be the reasons. Okay, so to me, the first reason is, even if we talk quite a lot statewide, and the people who are involved in the process, they talk, but for the common people, still this waste management is not a priority. And still, since for the common people it is not a priority, the political ownership is also not to, not to the required this thing. Okay, even though, I have to say that now we have a golden opportunity, because our honorable chief minister himself is leading the campaign, and for the last 1 year our LSJD minister was in the forefront in leading the sector. But still, for the, for the common people, for in general, it is not a priority, and therefore the responsible agency, the local self-government, the local body, whether it is urban or rural, only few of those local bodies have really good leadership who takes this as a passion and drive it. Okay, so it's not a priority. And what is happening, because it's not a priority now, what is happening is that if a project is announced, or if they want to, mitigate the gap, then they never go in the front. Actually, this is a service sector. Like water and power, the if you say the service sector, we always say that water, power and waste management. But see the treatment what waste management is getting and what the other two sectors are getting. So the waste management also should get the similar treatment as we, the importance which we give to the power and water sector. Only then it can improve. It cannot just like that, get it managed by themselves. It has to be managed by professionals. Okay, when I say professionals, just see who all are managing this thing in the, any of the local bodies, whether it is corporation or municipality or gram panchayat. Just see the people who are managing this. Do you prescribe, is there any qualification which is prescribed for, a person who has to professionally manage this? No, it is just a part of the health segment, and then whoever is there coming, as employee there, they are managing it, in addition to a lot more of, activity from their, other responsibility with them. So there are no specific staff, no specific professional staff, and yeah, all those things, because it's not a priority. So the first problem which I still feel is that, it has to be made as a priority sector. And now a lot of hope in the new campaign which is happening therein, which is, we are starting the campaign on October 2nd. Honorable Chief Minister is actually launching it, and that may make the difference on the first issue. The second issue which I see is that there is lack of clarity. There is lack of clarity in approach. Okay, we have been, see, if you see the Velapalshala, before the Velapalshala closure period, we were actually looking at the traditional things which are happening elsewhere or the centralized plan. And once the Velapalshala happened in 2011, then, we could not even talk about the centralized, and we have actually found the new way, the decentralized source level and all that. It is a good, very nice approach, and it is a globally, if you see, maybe, it is one of its kind, which is happening, our own Kerala model which is happening. But yeah, in between again, there was a confusion whether centralized has come, so we plan for centralized, so decentralized, centralized, source level, this, that, and all that. This is all where we are going. We never knew, and there was no clarity on what to be planned, and that is still continuing. And thankfully now the KSWMP project, which has come, World Bank funded project, probably we have actually now, told boldly that we are now going to adopt the hybrid system. Okay, now taking good things from both, okay, decentralized, centralized, etc. The hybrid system, which will say, which actually is nothing but wherever the source level decentralized is possible, as far as possible, we encourage that. And if there is a gap, it has to be filled by community level facilities, which is not really centralized, but we can actually say semi centralized. Okay, to that kind of way, it's a, to appropriate size, on an appropriate size centralization is needed. So that kind of a hybrid approach, and that is the principle which is now being used by the state. Okay, so the mission and entire the state is now using the hybrid approach, where we focus in promoting the source level, especially in the context of biodegradable waste. And then wherever possible, we go for the community level. So that clarity need to be done, and probably we should actually now, go for the hybrid approach. The third problem which I have actually now found is, um, see, we have been talking about the responsibility of waste management is completely with the local body. I would like to differ in this, because it's it's beyond local body also. It cannot, the local body by itself may not be able to completely resolve it, because some of the upstream activities of the waste management need a cluster approach, okay, need wider scale, and need the participation of others also. A regional level approach is needed. For example, now if you talk about recycling facility, we cannot have recycling facility within the local body. There is no scale for that. It cannot be it cannot actually consider that as a as that as something which can be done by a local body. They may be able to do few things, but we need a larger scale for that. Maybe in the state, one or two recycling park kind of an approach is needed, to considering the considering the infrastructure which is needed for that. Even so, to me, I think, as far as the non-biodegradable is concerned, up to MCF, yeah, it is completely, it has to be within the the responsibility of the local body. And beyond that, probably is a we need a regional or state level system to take care of the further management of the disposal, etc. So in that matter, we may also, because it's urban dialogue, we are actually looking into policy level this thing. This is something, we have a Clean Kerala company, but that Clean Kerala company's role is now very limited, and that is only for the forward linkage of the non-biodegradable waste. That is very, very small portion of what the Clean Kerala company could be. Okay, it has to manage the state level function, including that of the biodegradable waste management, which need a cluster approach. Okay, multiple LBs, you will be associating with the surrounding local bodies, etc. Even if it is gram panchayat, so they could be like the urban agglomeration which is planned, so there could be a cluster approach for this, for C&D, for for many other facilities which we actually consider. So that is my thinking on that. Now, the fourth issue, which I find is one of the critical reason for this sector remains as a challenge, is that is a lack of planned approach. Okay, there's nobody really plan for anything. It all comes arbitrary. Okay, there should be some facility, some this thing. Nobody talk about the total quantity and this much quantity, and then for that this much area and all that, that calculation, because it's not being done by professionally. It is for the first time KSWMP, when it comes, since it's a World Bank project, they insisted on the urban local body level plan, waste management plan. We started thinking of this thing first, and but it's still, and the town planning department again, KILA is also now part of the planning approach, in other way. So there we can actually see the master plan. If you see the master plan of I'm a town planner basically, so I worked in town planning department for quite some time, so I can very clearly say the limited space which is occupied by the sector in the this thing. So that is the lack of the last point which I wanted to actually communicate as the problem, is the clear policy on the private sector participation. One good thing which is happening is the green industry policy which is coming out from the industry department, is really is a good encouraging one, which is in the draft form. Now discussions are happening. Once that is finalized, probably a lot of private participation in this sector will essentially will come. And I'm of the opinion that the private sector, since it is actually the operation and management is very critical in this any infrastructure we make, since it is very critical, the private sector participation in the infrastructure development and operation management is very, very important. So this is actually true for liquid waste management as well as solid waste management, all the 5 points which I said. So here I would like to stop my sharing of things, with what I thought. And finally, I should say that focused planned approach with supporting policies for private sector and using new technology is only going to resolve our problem. And Malinyamuktham Navakeralam campaign, Janagiya campaign is definitely a big hope for all of us in targeting and expecting good results on waste management. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir, for sharing your experiences and setting the context. I now like to invite Shri Tikender Singh Panwar. Tikender sir is the former directly elected Deputy Mayor of Shimla and is a visionary leader renowned for his advocacy of inclusive growth and resilient urban development. Under his leadership, Shimla embraced a development plan emphasizing social infrastructure and environmental sustainability with active citizen participation, enhancing the city's forest cover. Sri Tikender's influence extends beyond local governance. He served on the National Task Force for reviewing the 74th Constitutional Amendment on Decentralized Government. Internationally, he represented Shimla and India at numerous
I think that's enough. Let me start. Let's not waste time.
Yeah, sure. Thank you so much, sir.
Yeah, thank you so much. And, because I'm not going to stay for long, but for sure, we are going to get all the recordings. And there are just 2 or 3 quick points that I want to make. The first one is I'm really happy to be here. And the second is that we are actually very eagerly looking at some of the very pertinent issues that are coming up in this discussion. I just heard Mr. Joe's all through his his presentation that he's made. So what I request the speakers and the discussant, because we are in the midst of finalizing the Kerala urban policy, and as you all know that there is a Kerala urban policy commission, and the job of the commission, the term of the commission is 1 year, and which means we have to finish off by December, and we have to lay the policy framework for another 25 years. And in fact, waste management is covered under what we call the infrastructure pillar. In fact, there should have been another pillar, but somehow we did not actually focus that much what should have been, as one of the major priorities when we talk about urban. So what I'm looking at through this discussion is that what should be the fundamental policy differences that should take place, because now is the right time, apart from doing what I am doing at my home, what you are doing at your homes is not what is, of course that is very important and not to discredit that, but what is the policy direction and policy orientation that we require? A, B, what are the major disruptions required? Because Mr. Joe, when Mr. Joes was presenting, I'm still failing to understand why are we still talking about FSTPs? Where is this data coming from? What I would like to know as a member of the policy commission is what is the total number of toilets that we have in Kerala? What is the different modes of treatment? How many are single pit? How many are twin pits? How many are septic tanks? How many are scientific septic tanks? How many of the toilets are linked with these STPs or where? So in fact, that is what I'm looking at, so that we can push for a policy orientation. Take, for example, Himachal, we're doing it, but of course, that's not happening for urban Himachal, but for rural, where we've been able to map some 15,000 villages, and I think 2,000 or 3,000 more villages are left out. And interesting is that the push from the center, and I'm reiterating it, that the push from the Jal Shakti, JSV, and even the Swachh Bharat Mission, Gramin is, okay, you take one STP in each district, okay, you take one FSTP in one block. But we do not require that because, 95% of my toilets are single pit. So what I need to do in Himachal, I know that, is just to shift from single pit to double pit, and 90% of my problem is over, as a policy framework for another 20 years or 25 years. So this whole paranoia that exists in the current ecosystem, the paranoia for asset creation, for capital investment infrastructure, unfortunately, we have some voices, even in Kerala, to be very frank. As a member of the commission, I'm not going to buy that. So what we require is a solid framework of data-based, evidence-based data to show, okay, this is where we are in Kerala. And we all know, it's abysmally low, though we stood first in the urban governance index. Of course, we are, but that also tells us the exact state of urbanization and the urban governance in the country. So not to discredit what we are, but the point is we have to take a leapfrog from here. We have to take a big jump. And that jump cannot happen unless and until we are very critical of the ground realities. So I'm really looking forward to the discussions here. But these discussions should also, I also saw somebody from CDDs here, I think the chairperson, because I know they have done some wonderful work in Leh, where the FSTP was designed, and it's really working well. But how many FSTPs? That is that is the framework I'm looking at as a member of the commission. So unfortunately, that is something that nobody has guided us till now. As far as infrastructure is concerned, everyone is speaking about these STPs, whether that linkage is required, because if there are nuclear houses in Kerala, but I think someone must share the demographic patterns that we have actually discussed in the Urban Commission. What Kerala would be 2051, because we still do not have the census. Professor James, who is member of our commission, he has given us some of the demographic patterns in Kerala. And according to him, let me share that with you, that by 2051, some 70%, correct me, Rajesh, if I'm wrong, 70% or 75% of the population would be living in urban Kerala. But in another 100 years, that is 2101, that's the demographic pattern he has given. It will be just 19 cities that where the urban concentration would be somewhere 90-95%. And that time Kerala would be somewhere around 96% urban. So we know where these shifts are taking place. So please keep that in mind when we are talking about both solid waste management and liquid waste management. And lastly, on the solid waste part, Joseph was pointing out, I do not know what is the process of quantification of this data, because we did the waste audit for Leh, and I can tell you 70% of the waste that enters Leh is neither biodegradable nor recyclable. What do you do in such a scenario? Kerala being a tourist hub, I'm sure you're also getting all that stuff which you do not deserve. Those Tetra Paks and all that stuff, which, we do not know what to do with that. But if it is some 60% biodegradable waste, then I think we know which way the policy has to shift. So I think that is another area, third or the fourth area that we'll be looking at. Which way should the Urban Commission recommend for the policy recommendations? Thank you so much, Dr. Rajesh, KILA, giving me this opportunity to be here. I will have, because I have come here, and most of your Kerala people are here because we have this conference taking place tomorrow. So we'll be working on many aspects here. Our chairperson of the Urban Commission is here. Then we have I think Thrissur Mayor is also here, and perhaps the Calicut Mayor as well. So we'll be interacting in Delhi. So please pardon me because I'll be leaving midway. But we'll be, and this is an urgent request to Kerala. Please record everything down and just extract what is required for the for the policy directions that we must imbibe for Thank you so much. With that, I think I will.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you. I would now invite Shri M. Krishnadas, sir, for his address. Sir is serving as the chairman of Chamber of Municipal Chairman, Kerala, and is also a member of the KUPC. Under his able leadership, the Guruvayur town, which is a major temple city, has been transformed into a green city. We would like to hear your insights about this process for which you played a pivotal role. Over to you, sir.
എല്ലാവർക്കും നമസ്കാരം. ഈ പരിപാടിയിൽ പങ്കെടുക്കുന്ന പ്രഭാഷകരായിട്ടുള്ള ശ്രോതാക്കളായിട്ടുള്ള എല്ലാവർക്കും നമസ്കാരം. സ്വച്ഛതാ ഹി സേവ 2024 ഭാഗമായിട്ടുള്ള പ്രവർത്തനങ്ങൾ രാജ്യവ്യാപകമായി നടന്നുകൊണ്ടിരിക്കുന്ന ഒരു സന്ദർഭത്തിൽ മാലിന്യ വിമുക്ത കേരളം എന്ന മഹത്തായ ലക്ഷ്യത്തിലേക്ക് വേണ്ടിയിട്ടുള്ള പ്രവർത്തനങ്ങളുടെ അവസാന ഘട്ടത്തിൽ എത്തി നിൽക്കുന്ന ഒരു സന്ദർഭത്തിൽ മാലിന്യ സംസ്കരണത്തിന്റെ പ്രതിസന്ധികളും അതിന്റെ പരിഹാരങ്ങളും എന്ന വിഷയത്തിൽ ഈ മാസത്തെ അർബൻ ഡയലോഗിൽ ഉൾപ്പെടുത്തിയ കിലയെ ആദ്യമായി ഞാൻ അനുമോദിക്കുകയാണ്. കേരളം രാജ്യത്തിന് പല മാതൃകകളും സൃഷ്ടിച്ച ഒരു സംസ്ഥാനമാണ്. ആരോഗ്യ പരിപാലനത്തിന്റെ കാര്യത്തിലും വിദ്യാഭ്യാസത്തിന്റെ കാര്യത്തിലും സാമൂഹ്യ സമത്വത്തിന്റെ കാര്യത്തിലുമെല്ലാം നമുക്ക് രാജ്യത്തിന് തന്നെ മാതൃകയാകാൻ സാധിച്ചിട്ടുണ്ട്. ലോകത്തിനും നമ്മൾ പല കാര്യങ്ങളിലും മാതൃകയായി മാറിയിട്ടുണ്ട്. ഈ മാതൃകകളുടെ ഈ മേന്മകളുടെ ഘട്ടത്തിൽ നമുക്ക് എത്തിപ്പെടാൻ കഴിയാത്ത ഒന്നാണ് മാലിന്യ സംസ്കരണം എന്ന തിരിച്ചറിവാണ്. മാലിന്യ സംസ്കരണത്തിന് വേണ്ടി ഗവൺമെന്റും തദ്ദേശ സ്വയംഭരണ സ്ഥാപനങ്ങളുമെല്ലാം ഒരേ മനസ്സോടുകൂടി പ്രവർത്തിച്ച് മാലിന്യ വിമുക്ത നവകേരളം അത് സാധ്യതമാക്കാൻ വേണ്ടിയിട്ടുള്ള ശക്തമായ പ്രവർത്തനങ്ങൾ ഇപ്പോൾ നടക്കുന്നത്. തീർച്ചയായിട്ടും കേരളത്തിലെ എല്ലാ ജനങ്ങളും ഒരുമിച്ചാൽ കേരളം ഇന്ന് അഭിമുഖീകരിക്കുന്ന ഈ പ്രശ്നത്തിന് പരിഹാരം കാണാൻ കഴിയുമെന്നാണ് ഞങ്ങളുടെ എല്ലാം വിശ്വാസം. വിവിധ മാതൃകകൾ ഇതിനകം തന്നെ വിവിധ തദ്ദേശ സ്വയംഭരണ സ്ഥാപനങ്ങൾ ഇപ്പോൾ സംഭാവന ചെയ്തിട്ടുണ്ട്. അക്കൂട്ടത്തിൽ ചില പ്രവർത്തനങ്ങൾ നടത്തിയ ഒരു നഗരസഭ എന്നുള്ള നിലയിൽ ഞങ്ങളുടെ അനുഭവം ഇവിടെ പങ്കുവെക്കാനാണ് ഞാൻ വളരെ ചുരുങ്ങിയ സമയം കൊണ്ട് ഉദ്ദേശിക്കുന്നത്. ഞാൻ ഗുരുവായൂർ നഗരസഭയുടെ ചെയർമാനാണ്. ഗുരുവായൂർ എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞാൽ നിങ്ങൾക്ക് എല്ലാവർക്കും അറിയാം, രാജ്യത്തെ ഏറ്റവും പ്രധാനപ്പെട്ട ഒരു തീർത്ഥാടന നഗരമാണ്. കേരളത്തിലെ 87 മുനിസിപ്പാലിറ്റികളിൽ നിന്നും വ്യത്യസ്തമായിട്ടുള്ള ഒരു നഗരസഭയാണ് ഗുരുവായൂർ. സാധാരണ എല്ലാ ലോക്കൽ ഗവൺമെന്റുകൾ, പ്രാദേശിക സർക്കാരുകളുടെയും പ്രധാനപ്പെട്ട ഉത്തരവാദിത്തം തദ്ദേശീയരായിട്ടുള്ള ആളുകളുടെ പ്രശ്നങ്ങൾ എന്താണെന്ന് മനസ്സിലാക്കി അതിന് പരിഹാരം കാണുകയാണ്. എന്നാൽ ഞങ്ങളെ സംബന്ധിച്ചിടത്തോളം തദ്ദേശീയരായിട്ടുള്ള ആളുകളെ പോലെ തന്നെ ഇവിടെ ഓരോ ദിവസവും വന്നു ചേരുന്ന അനേകായിരം തീർത്ഥാടകർ, അവരുമായി ബന്ധപ്പെട്ട പ്രശ്നങ്ങൾ കൂടി അഭിമുഖീകരിക്കാൻ ബാധ്യതപ്പെട്ട ഒരു നഗരസഭ എന്നുള്ള നിലയിൽ മറ്റു നഗരസഭകളിൽ നിന്നും ഗുരുവായൂർ വേറിട്ടു നിൽക്കുന്നു. ഗുരുവായൂരിൽ ഒരു വർഷം വന്നു പോകുന്നു എന്ന് കണക്കാക്കപ്പെടുന്ന തീർത്ഥാടകരുടെ എണ്ണം വളരെ വർഷങ്ങൾക്ക് മുമ്പ് കണക്കാക്കിയിട്ടുള്ളത് 3 കോടി എന്നാണ്. ഗുരുവായൂരിലെ ആകെ ജനസംഖ്യ 71,000 അത് തന്നെ പഴയ ഗുരുവായൂർ നഗരസഭയിൽ അത്ര ജനസംഖ്യ ഉണ്ടായിരുന്നില്ല. 2 പഞ്ചായത്തുകൾ കൂട്ടിച്ചേർത്തപ്പോഴാണ്. പഴയ ക്ഷേത്രം മാത്രം നിന്നിരുന്ന നഗരപ്രദേശത്തെ ജനസംഖ്യ 20,000 മാത്രം ഉണ്ടായിരുന്നു. എന്നാൽ അന്നും 3 കോടിയിലധികം ആളുകൾ ഒരു വർഷം വന്നു പോകുന്നു. 3 കോടിയിലധികം ആളുകൾ എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞാൽ അന്നത്തെ കണക്കനുസരിച്ച് അത് കേരളത്തിന്റെ ജനസംഖ്യയാണ്. കേരളത്തിന്റെ ജനസംഖ്യക്ക് സമാനമായ ഒരു ജനസഞ്ചയം പ്രതിവർഷം വന്നു പോകുന്നതിന്റെ ഭാഗമായി ഉണ്ടാവുന്ന എല്ലാ പ്രശ്നങ്ങളും അഭിമുഖീകരിക്കാൻ ബാധ്യതപ്പെട്ട ഒരു നഗരസഭയാണ് ഗുരുവായൂർ നഗരസഭ. അതുകൊണ്ട് തന്നെ ഞങ്ങൾ വളരെ പ്രയാസം അനുഭവിച്ചിരുന്ന ഒരു പ്രശ്നമായിരുന്നു മാലിന്യത്തിന്റെ പ്രശ്നം. ഇവിടെ വന്നു പോകുന്ന തീർത്ഥാടകർ ഉണ്ടാക്കുന്ന മാലിന്യം, ഇവിടെ തീർത്ഥാടകർക്ക് വേണ്ടി കെട്ടിപ്പൊക്കിയിട്ടുള്ള ലോഡ്ജുകളും അതുപോലുള്ള സ്ഥാപനങ്ങളും ഉണ്ടാക്കുന്ന മാലിന്യം, ഇതെല്ലാം നഗരത്തിന്റെ വിവിധ മേഖലകളിൽ കുന്നുകൂടി കിടന്ന് വളരെ പ്രധാനപ്പെട്ട ഒരു തീർത്ഥാടന നഗരത്തിന്റെ ഏത് മുക്കിലും മൂലയിലും മാലിന്യ കൂമ്പാരം ഒരു നിത്യ കാഴ്ചയായി ഇവിടെ വരുന്ന ജനങ്ങൾക്ക് വളരെ പ്രയാസം ഉണ്ടാക്കുന്ന ഒരു സാഹചര്യത്തിലൂടെയാണ് ഗുരുവായൂർ പോയിരുന്നത്. ഗുരുവായൂർ എന്ന് പറയുമ്പോൾ ഗുരുവായൂരിന്റെ മാലിന്യം കൊണ്ടുപോയിടുന്ന ഒരു ഗ്രൗണ്ട് ഉണ്ടായിരുന്നു. ആ ഗ്രൗണ്ടിലാണ് നഗരത്തിലെ എല്ലാ മാലിന്യങ്ങളും ഒരു ഗുരുവായൂർ നഗരസഭയുടെ ഒരു അതിർത്തി പ്രദേശത്ത് ഏകദേശം ഒരു 3.5 ഏക്കറോളം വരുന്നൊരു ഭൂമിയിൽ ഈ നഗരത്തിലെ എല്ലാ മാലിന്യങ്ങളും അവിടെ കൊണ്ടുപോയി ഡംപ് ചെയ്യുന്ന അശാസ്ത്രീയമായി സംസ്കരിച്ചിരുന്ന, അല്ലെങ്കിൽ സംസ്കരിച്ചു എന്ന് വേണമെങ്കിൽ പറയാം, അശാസ്ത്രീയമായിട്ടുള്ള ഒരു പ്രവർത്തനമാണ് അവിടെ നടന്നത്. എല്ലാ ദിവസവും മാലിന്യം നഗരത്തിൽ നിന്നും അവിടെ കൊണ്ടുപോയി ഇടും. അവിടെ അതിങ്ങനെ നിറഞ്ഞ് ചുറ്റുപാടുള്ള ആളുകൾക്ക് ജീവിക്കാൻ പ്രയാസമായി. അവിടുത്തെ വീടുകളിലും ഒക്കെ കിണറുകളിലൊക്കെ വലിയ തോതിലുള്ള മലിനജലമുണ്ടായി, പലതരത്തിലുള്ള ആരോഗ്യ പ്രശ്നങ്ങളുണ്ടായി. സ്വാഭാവികമായും ഇതൊരു സാമൂഹ്യ പ്രശ്നമായി മാറുകയും ശാസ്ത്രീയമായ മാലിന്യ സംസ്കരണത്തിലൂടെയല്ലാതെ മറ്റൊരു പരിഹാരവുമില്ല എന്ന ഒരു സാഹചര്യത്തിലാണ് തെരഞ്ഞെടുക്കപ്പെട്ട ഭരണസമിതികൾ ഗുരുവായൂർ നഗരത്തിലെ ഈ പ്രശ്നത്തിന് പരിഹാരം കാണാൻ വേണ്ടിയിട്ടുള്ള വിവിധ പദ്ധതികൾ ആവിഷ്കരിക്കാൻ തീരുമാനിച്ചത്. അതിലാദ്യമായി ഞങ്ങൾ മനസ്സിലാക്കിയ ഒരു കാര്യം, ഇവിടെ 2 തരത്തിലുള്ള മാലിന്യമാണ്. ഒന്ന് വന്നു പോകുന്ന ആളുകൾ ഉണ്ടാക്കുന്ന മാലിന്യം, ഇവിടെ താമസിക്കുന്ന 71,000-71,000 വരുന്ന ജനങ്ങൾ ഉണ്ടാക്കുന്ന മാലിന്യം. ഇത് എത്രമാത്രം വരും എന്നൊരു കണക്ക് ഞങ്ങൾ എടുത്തു. അങ്ങനെ കണക്കെടുത്ത് പരിശോധിച്ചപ്പോൾ ഏകദേശം 34 ടൺ മാലിന്യം പ്രതിദിനം ഇവിടെ ഉണ്ടാവുന്നു. അത് ജൈവമാലിന്യമുണ്ട്, അജൈവ മാലിന്യം. ജൈവമാലിന്യം 24 ടണ്ണോളം മാലിന്യം ഒരു ദിവസം ഉണ്ടാക്കുന്നു എന്നാണ് ഞങ്ങൾ കണ്ടത്. സ്വാഭാവികമായും ഈ കണക്കെടുപ്പിന്റെ അടിസ്ഥാനത്തിൽ ജൈവ മാലിന്യം എങ്ങനെ സംസ്കരിക്കാം, അജൈവ മാലിന്യം എങ്ങനെ സംസ്കരിക്കാം എന്ന ഗൗരവപ്പെട്ട ആലോചന നടത്തിയതിന്റെ അടിസ്ഥാനത്തിൽ ജൈവ മാലിന്യം സംസ്കരിക്കാൻ അതിൽ ഏറ്റവും പ്രാധാന്യം കൊടുക്കേണ്ടത് ഉറവിട മാലിന്യ സംസ്കരണത്തിനാണ് എന്ന് ഞങ്ങൾ തീരുമാനിച്ചു. നമ്മുടെ സർക്കാരിന്റെ തന്നെ പ്രഖ്യാപിതമായിട്ടുള്ള ഒരു നിലപാടാണ് മാലിന്യം ഉറവിടത്തിൽ സംസ്കരിക്കുക. എന്റെ മാലിന്യം എന്റെ ഉത്തരവാദിത്തമാണ് എന്ന ബോധ്യം ജനങ്ങൾക്കുണ്ടാക്കിയെടുക്കാൻ വേണ്ടിയിട്ടുള്ള പരിശ്രമത്തിൽ ഒരളവ് വരെ ഞങ്ങൾക്ക് വിജയിക്കാൻ സാധിച്ചു എന്നതിനാൽ ഇവിടെ ആകെ ഉണ്ടാക്കപ്പെടുന്ന മാലിന്യത്തിന്റെ വലിയ ഒരു അളവ് ഉറവിടത്തിൽ സംസ്കരിക്കാനാകുന്നു എന്നത് വളരെ പ്രധാനപ്പെട്ട ഒരു കാര്യമായി ഞങ്ങൾ കാണുകയാണ്. ഗുരുവായൂർ നഗരസഭയിൽ ആകെയുള്ള 18,000-ഓളം വരുന്ന വീടുകളിലെ 12,000 വീടുകളിൽ മാലിന്യം ശാസ്ത്രീയമായി, ജൈവമാലിന്യം ശാസ്ത്രീയമായി സംസ്കരിക്കാൻ കഴിയാവുന്ന സംവിധാനങ്ങൾ ഒരുക്കാൻ നഗരസഭ അതിനാവശ്യമായ പിന്തുണ നൽകി. സബ്സിഡി നിരക്കിൽ അവർക്ക് ബയോബിന്നും അതുപോലെ തന്നെ വലിയ സ്ഥാപനങ്ങളും വലിയ വീടുകളും ഒക്കെ ആണെങ്കിൽ അവിടെ ബയോഗ്യാസും എല്ലാം കൊടുത്ത് ഉറവിട മാലിന്യ സംസ്കരണത്തിന് ഊന്നൽ നൽകിക്കൊണ്ടുള്ള ഒരു ജൈവ മാലിന്യ സംസ്കരണ പ്രക്രിയ ആരംഭിക്കുകയും അതിൽ വിജയിക്കാൻ സാധിക്കുകയും ചെയ്തതോടുകൂടി ജൈവ മാലിന്യത്തിന്റെ അളവ് വലിയ തോതിൽ കുറയ്ക്കാൻ ഞങ്ങൾക്ക് സാധിച്ചു. ഗുരുവായൂർ ക്ഷേത്രം ഉൾപ്പെടെ ഗുരുവായൂർ ക്ഷേത്രത്തിന്റെ ഉള്ളിൽ നിന്നും അതുപോലെ തന്നെ പരിസര പ്രദേശത്തുള്ള ലോഡ്ജുകളും കല്യാണ മണ്ഡപങ്ങളും അതുപോലെ തന്നെ ഗുരുവായൂർ ക്ഷേത്രത്തിനോട് ചേർന്ന് നിൽക്കുന്ന കുറെ വീടുകളും അവർക്ക് മാലിന്യം സംസ്കരിക്കാൻ, ഉറവിടത്തിൽ സംസ്കരിക്കാനൊന്നും കഴിയില്ല. അവരുടെ ജൈവ മാലിന്യം മാത്രമാണ് ഞങ്ങൾ ശേഖരിക്കുന്നത്. ബാക്കിയെല്ലാം വീടുകളിൽ തന്നെ സംസ്കരിക്കാനുള്ള നിർദ്ദേശം അവർക്ക് നൽകുകയും അവരത് ഇപ്പോൾ നന്നായി തന്നെ അംഗീകരിക്കുകയും ചെയ്യുന്നുണ്ട്. അതിന്റെ ഭാഗമായി പ്രതിദിനം ഈ പറഞ്ഞ ക്ഷേത്രത്തിലെയും പരിസര പ്രദേശങ്ങളിലെ കല്യാണ മണ്ഡപങ്ങളിലെയും ഒക്കെ ലോഡ്ജുകളിൽ നിന്നൊക്കെ ഉണ്ടാകുന്ന ഏകദേശം 6.5 ടൺ മാലിന്യം ഒരു ദിവസം ഇവിടെ നഗരസഭയുടെ ഖരമാലിന്യ സംസ്കരണ കേന്ദ്രത്തിലെ ബയോ പാർക്ക് എന്ന് ഞങ്ങൾ വിളിക്കുന്ന ഈ പ്രത്യേക സംവിധാനത്തിൽ വെച്ച് ജൈവ വളമാക്കി മാറ്റുന്ന പ്രക്രിയ നടക്കുകയാണ്. വളരെ കൃത്യമായി അത് നടക്കുന്നു എന്നതുകൊണ്ട് 6.5 ടണ്ണോളം ജൈവമാലിന്യം വളമായി മാറുന്നു. വളരെ കൃത്യമായി സിസ്റ്റമാറ്റിക് ആയിട്ട് ആ പ്രവർത്തനം നടക്കുന്നുണ്ട്. ഈ സ്ഥലങ്ങളിൽ നിന്നും ഹരിതകർമ്മ സേനയുടെ ഭാഗമായിട്ടുള്ള ജൈവമാലിന്യം സംസ്കരിക്കുന്ന ഒരു സംഘമുണ്ട്. അവരത് വീടുകളിൽ നിന്നും ഈ പറഞ്ഞ കുറച്ച് വീടുകളിൽ നിന്നും കൂടുതൽ സ്ഥാപനങ്ങളിൽ നിന്നും അമ്പലത്തിൽ നിന്നുള്ള മാലിന്യമെല്ലാം ജൈവമാലിന്യം കൊണ്ടുപോയി സംസ്കരിച്ച് വളമാക്കി ആവശ്യക്കാർക്ക്, നഗരസഭയുടെ വാർഷിക പദ്ധതിയുടെ ഭാഗമായി കൃഷിക്കാർക്ക് വളം കൊടുക്കുന്നത് ഞങ്ങൾ ഈ വളം ഉപയോഗപ്പെടുത്തിയിട്ടാണ്. അങ്ങനെ വരുമ്പോൾ നമ്മുടെ മാലിന്യത്തെ നമ്മുടെ തന്നെ കൃഷിക്കാർക്ക് വളമാക്കി കൊടുക്കുന്ന ഒരു പ്രക്രിയയിൽ ഞങ്ങൾക്ക് വിജയം കൈവരിക്കാനായിട്ടുണ്ട്. അതുകൊണ്ട് തന്നെ ജൈവമാലിന്യ സംസ്കരണത്തിന്റെ കാര്യത്തിൽ ഗുരുവായൂർ നഗരസഭ ഇപ്പോൾ വലിയ മുന്നേറ്റം നടത്താൻ ഞങ്ങൾക്ക് സാധിച്ചു. മറ്റൊന്നാണ് അജൈവ മാലിന്യം. ഇവിടെ വരുന്ന തീർത്ഥാടകരും അതുപോലെ തന്നെയുള്ള ആളുകളും എല്ലാം കയ്യിൽ കിട്ടുന്ന എല്ലാ സാധനങ്ങളും റോട്ടിലെല്ലാം വലിച്ചെറിഞ്ഞ് അജൈവ മാലിന്യങ്ങളുടെ ഒരു വലിയ കൂമ്പാരം നഗരത്തിന്റെ ഏത് ഭാഗത്തും കാണാൻ കഴിയുമായിരുന്നു. എന്നാൽ ഇപ്പോൾ അതിൽ പൂർണ്ണമായും മാറി. അതിന്റെ കാരണം ഡോർ ടു ഡോർ കളക്ഷൻ, ഹരിതകർമ്മസേനയെ ഡോർ ടു ഡോർ കളക്ഷൻ 35% ഉണ്ടായിരുന്നതിൽ നിന്നും 84% എത്തിക്കാൻ സാധിച്ചു. 84% വീടുകളിൽ നിന്നും സ്ഥാപനങ്ങളിൽ നിന്നും ഹരിതകർമ്മസേന പ്ലാസ്റ്റിക് മാത്രമല്ല ഓരോ മാസവും പ്രത്യേകം ടൈം ടേബിൾ വെച്ച് നിർദ്ദേശം കൊടുത്തതിന്റെ ഭാഗമായി പ്രത്യേകം അജൈവ മാലിന്യങ്ങൾ ഓരോ മാസവും പ്രത്യേകമായി എടുക്കുന്നു. അങ്ങനെ വരുമ്പോൾ പ്ലാസ്റ്റിക് മാലിന്യവും മറ്റ് അജൈവ മാലിന്യങ്ങളും റോട്ടിൽ നിറയുന്ന അല്ലെങ്കിൽ നിരത്തിൽ നിറയുന്ന പൊതുസ്ഥലത്ത് നിറയുന്ന സ്ഥിതിയും ഒഴിവായി. ഇത് രണ്ടും വന്നതോടുകൂടി മാലിന്യം നഗരത്തിൽ എവിടെയും ഇല്ലാത്തൊരു സാഹചര്യം വന്നു. തീർച്ചയായിട്ടും ഇതിന്റെ എല്ലാം ഭാഗമായി ഞാൻ നേരത്തെ സൂചിപ്പിച്ചിരുന്ന 3.5 ഏക്കറോളം വരുന്ന ആ ജനങ്ങൾ ദുർഗന്ധം കൊണ്ട് നടന്നു പോകാൻ പറ്റാതിരുന്ന അവിടെ ഒരു പഴയ മൃതദേഹം സംസ്കരിക്കുന്ന ഒരു പഴയ ശ്മശാനം ഉണ്ടായിരുന്നു. അതിന്റെ പേര് ശവക്കോട്ട എന്നാണ്. ആ പേര് കേട്ടാൽ തന്നെ ജനങ്ങൾ ഭയക്കുകയും അവർക്ക് അതിലൂടെ പോകാൻ പ്രയാസപ്പെടുകയും ചെയ്യുന്ന ഒരു സ്ഥലമായിരുന്നു. അജ്ഞാത ജഡങ്ങളും അനാഥ ശവങ്ങളും എല്ലാം കുഴിച്ചിട്ടിരുന്ന ഈ മാലിന്യങ്ങൾ കൊണ്ടുപോയിട്ടിരുന്ന ഒരു സ്ഥലത്ത് അതിന്റെ നടുക്കിലാണ് ഈ ശ്മശാനം. ഒരു നിവൃത്തിയില്ലാത്ത ആളുകൾ മാത്രമേ അവിടെ മൃതദേഹം സംസ്കരിക്കാൻ കൊണ്ടുവന്നിരുന്നുള്ളൂ. എന്നാൽ അങ്ങനെ കിടന്നിരുന്ന ഒരു ഭൂമി 3.5 ഏക്കറോളം ഭൂമിയെ മനുഷ്യർക്ക് ഏറ്റവും പ്രയോജനകരമായ ഒരു സ്ഥലമാക്കി മാറ്റാൻ ഈ പ്രവർത്തനങ്ങളിലൂടെ ഗുരുവായൂർ നഗരസഭയ്ക്ക് സാധിച്ചു. 3.5 ഏക്കറോളം വരുന്ന ഭൂമിയിൽ 1 ഏക്കർ ഭൂമിയിൽ ഇപ്പോൾ ഗുരുവായൂർ ക്ഷേത്രപ്രവേശന സത്യാഗ്രഹത്തിന്റെ വളരെ പ്രധാനപ്പെട്ട നായകന്മാരിൽ ഒരാളായിരുന്ന AC രാമൻ എന്ന ഗുരുവായൂർക്കാരന്റെ നാമധേയത്തിൽ ചിൽഡ്രൻസ് പാർക്ക് ഞങ്ങൾ നിർമ്മിച്ചു. ഇപ്പോൾ കുട്ടികളും രക്ഷിതാക്കളും വലിയ മുതിർന്നവരും എല്ലാം ആ പാർക്കിൽ വൈകുന്നേരങ്ങളിലും കാലത്തുമെല്ലാം വരുന്നത് കാണുമ്പോൾ ഒരു 3 വർഷം മുമ്പ് 4 വർഷം മുമ്പ് മൂക്ക് പൊത്താതെ നടക്കാൻ കഴിയുമാതില്ലാതിരുന്ന ഒരു സ്ഥലത്ത് ജനക്ഷേമകരമായ പ്രവർത്തനങ്ങളിലൂടെ ജനോപകാരപ്രദമായ പ്രവർത്തനങ്ങളിലൂടെ ജനങ്ങൾക്ക് ഗുണകരമാക്കി മാറ്റാൻ ഞങ്ങൾക്ക് സാധിച്ചു എന്ന് അഭിമാനപൂർവ്വം ഞങ്ങൾ കാണുകയാണ്. ബാക്കി വന്ന ഒരു 1 ഏക്കറോളം സ്ഥലത്താണ് ഈ ബയോ പാർക്ക് ഞങ്ങൾ സ്ഥാപിച്ചത്. ആ ബയോ പാർക്കിൽ ഇപ്പോൾ അജൈവ മാലിന്യങ്ങൾ ശേഖരിക്കാനും തരംതിരിക്കാനുമായിട്ടുള്ള വലിയ വിസ്തൃതമായിട്ടുള്ള 3 MCF വിപുലമായ 3 വലിയ MCFകളുണ്ട്. അവിടെ ഹരിതകർമ്മസേന അത് തരംതിരിക്കുന്നു, ആവശ്യമായിട്ടുള്ള ക്രമീകരണങ്ങൾ ഉണ്ടാക്കുന്നു, അത് കൈമാറ്റം ചെയ്യപ്പെടുന്നു. മറ്റൊരു ഭാഗത്താണ് നേരത്തെ സൂചിപ്പിച്ച ജൈവ മാലിന്യ സംസ്കരണ വളനിർമ്മാണശാല നടക്കുന്നത്. ആ പ്രവർത്തനവും അവിടെ നടക്കും. ഇതിനോടൊപ്പം ജൈവമാലിന്യം വളമാക്കാൻ വേണ്ടി വീട്ടുകാർക്ക് കൊടുത്തിട്ടുള്ള ബയോബിന്നിൽ ജൈവമാലിന്യം വളമാക്കുന്ന പ്രക്രിയയ്ക്ക് സഹായകരമായ ബയോ കമ്പോസ്റ്റ് അത് പ്രത്യേകം ഉത്പാദിപ്പിക്കുന്ന ഒരു യൂണിറ്റ് ഞങ്ങൾക്കുണ്ട്. ആ യൂണിറ്റിൽ നിന്നും ആ ബയോ മിശ്രിതം എല്ലാ വീടുകളിലേക്കും ആവശ്യാനുസരണം കൊടുക്കുന്നതോടുകൂടി പലപ്പോഴും ഈ ബയോബിന്നൊക്കെ ആളുകൾക്ക് കൊടുത്തു കഴിഞ്ഞാൽ അതിൽ ഈ മിശ്രിതം കിട്ടാത്തതിന്റെ ഭാഗമായി ഉപയോഗിക്കാൻ കഴിയാതെ അത് മറ്റാവശ്യങ്ങൾക്ക് ഉപയോഗിക്കുന്ന കാഴ്ചയുണ്ട്. എന്നാൽ ഗുരുവായൂരിൽ വളരെ കൃത്യമായി ഹരിതകർമ്മസേന തന്നെ അത് വീടുകളിൽ എത്തിച്ചു കൊടുക്കുന്നു. അതിന്റെ ഭാഗമായി എല്ലാ വീടുകളിലും ജൈവമാലിന്യം ഉൽപാദനവും കൃത്യമായി നടക്കുന്നു. അപ്പോൾ ഈ നിലയിൽ 3 കേന്ദ്രങ്ങളായി, ഒന്ന് കുട്ടികളുടെ പാർക്കാണ്, ഒന്ന് ബയോ പാർക്കാണ്, മറ്റൊരു ഭാഗം ഞാൻ നേരത്തെ പറഞ്ഞ ജനങ്ങൾ ഭയപ്പെട്ടിരുന്ന പ്രാകൃതമായ ശ്മശാനത്തിന് പകരം ഏറ്റവും ആധുനികമായ ഒരു ഗ്യാസ് ക്രെമറ്റോറിയം അവിടെ സ്ഥാപിച്ച് അവിടെ ഇപ്പോൾ അത് ചെന്ന് കണ്ടാൽ ഒരു ശ്മശാനമാണെന്നല്ല തോന്നുക, ഒരു പാർക്ക് പോലെ മനോഹരമായ ഒരു സ്ഥലമായി അതിനെ മാറ്റിയെടുക്കാൻ കഴിഞ്ഞു. ബാക്കി ഉണ്ടായിരുന്ന കുറച്ച് സ്ഥലമുണ്ട്. ആ സ്ഥലത്ത് ഞങ്ങൾ വഴിയോര വിശ്രമ കേന്ദ്രം സ്ഥാപിച്ചു. ഗുരുവായൂർ നഗരത്തിൽ ക്ഷേത്രത്തിലേക്കൊക്കെ വരുന്ന ആളുകൾക്ക് കുന്നംകുളത്ത് നിന്നും ഗുരുവായൂരിലേക്ക് വരുന്ന റോട്ടിന്റെ വക്കത്തായി ഇതിന്റെ ഒരു പ്രത്യേകത കൂടി പറയേണ്ടത്, കേരളത്തിലെ ഏത് മാലിന്യ സംസ്കരണ കേന്ദ്രങ്ങൾ എടുത്താലും ആ മാലിന്യ സംസ്കരണ കേന്ദ്രങ്ങളൊക്കെ ഒന്നെങ്കിൽ ആൾതാമസമില്ലാത്ത വളരെയേറെ ദൂര സ്ഥലത്തുള്ള ഒരു സ്ഥലത്താണ് സാധാരണ എല്ലാ മാലിന്യ സംസ്കരണ കേന്ദ്രങ്ങളും ഞാൻ കണ്ടിട്ടുള്ളത്. എന്നാൽ ഗുരുവായൂർ നഗരസഭയുടെ മാലിന്യ സംസ്കരണം ജനനിബിഡമായ നഗരത്തിന്റെ ഏറ്റവും പ്രധാനപ്പെട്ട റോഡിന്റെ പക്കത്താണ്. അതുകൊണ്ട് തന്നെ ഇത് ഒരിക്കലും അങ്ങനെ നിലനിർത്താൻ കഴിയില്ല എന്ന തീരുമാനത്തിന്റെ അടിസ്ഥാനത്തിൽ ബാക്കിയുള്ള സ്ഥലത്ത് ഈ വഴിയോര വിശ്രമ കേന്ദ്രം കൂടി വന്നപ്പോൾ 3.5 ഏക്കർ ഭൂമിയിൽ മനുഷ്യൻ തിരിഞ്ഞു നോക്കാൻ കഴിയാതിരുന്ന ദുർഗന്ധം വമിച്ചിരുന്ന ഒരു ഭൂമിയെ മനുഷ്യ സൗഹൃദമുള്ള അവർക്ക് വരാനും വന്നിരിക്കാനും കഴിയുന്ന ഒരു പ്രദേശമാക്കി മാറ്റാൻ ഞങ്ങൾക്ക് സാധിച്ചത് ശാസ്ത്രീയമായ മാലിന്യ സംസ്കരണത്തിന് ഊന്നൽ നൽകി, ഉറവിട മാലിന്യ സംസ്കരണത്തിന് പ്രാധാന്യം നൽകി, എന്റെ മാലിന്യം എന്റെ ഉത്തരവാദിത്തമാണ് എന്ന ബോധ്യം ജനങ്ങളിൽ എത്തിക്കാൻ സാധിച്ചതിലൂടെയാണ്. അങ്ങനെ സാധിച്ചത് കൊണ്ടാണ് പ്രതിവർഷം 3 കോടിയോളം വരുന്ന തീർത്ഥാടകർ വന്നു പോകുന്ന ഇന്ത്യയിലെ വളരെ പ്രധാനപ്പെട്ട ഒരു തീർത്ഥാടന നഗരമായ ഗുരുവായൂരിനെ ഇന്ന് ദുർഗന്ധമില്ലാത്തൊരു നഗരമാക്കി മാറ്റാൻ ഞങ്ങൾക്ക് സാധിച്ചത്. ഇതൊരു തുടർ പ്രക്രിയയായി നടത്തണം എന്ന് തന്നെയാണ് ഞങ്ങൾ ആലോചിക്കുന്നത്. പുതിയ മാർഗങ്ങൾ, പുതിയ രീതികൾ, പുതിയ ടെക്നോളജികൾ ഇതെല്ലാം പ്രയോജനപ്പെടുത്തി ഗുരുവായൂരിനെ ഒരു കാരണവശാലും പഴയ കാലത്തേക്ക് പോകാൻ കഴിയാത്ത വിധം കൊണ്ടുപോകുന്നതിന് വേണ്ടിയിട്ടുള്ള നിതാന്ത ജാഗ്രത ഞങ്ങൾ നടത്തുന്നുണ്ട്. തീർച്ചയായിട്ടും ഞാൻ എൻ്റെ പ്രഭാഷണം അവസാനിപ്പിക്കുകയാണ്. എനിക്ക് പറയാനുള്ള കാര്യം, കേരളത്തിൽ ഗുരുവായൂർ നഗരസഭയ്ക്ക് ഇതിന് സാധിച്ചുവെങ്കിൽ ഇത് സാധ്യമാകാത്ത ഒരു പഞ്ചായത്തും ഒരു മുനിസിപ്പാലിറ്റിയും ഉണ്ടാവില്ല എന്നാണ് ഞങ്ങളുടെ വിശ്വാസം. കാരണം ഞങ്ങളെപ്പോലെ പ്രത്യേകതയുള്ള ഇതുപോലെ തീർത്ഥാടകർ വരുന്ന അല്ലെങ്കിൽ മറ്റുള്ള ആളുകൾ വന്നു പോകുന്ന ഒരു സ്ഥലം ഇത്രയധികം ആളുകൾ വരുന്ന ഒരു സ്ഥലം ഉണ്ടാവില്ല. ഇത് രണ്ടും കൈകാര്യം ചെയ്യുവാൻ ഞങ്ങൾക്ക് കഴിയുന്നുണ്ട്. ഇവിടെ വരുന്ന തീർത്ഥാടകരുണ്ടാക്കുന്ന മാലിന്യം അതെല്ലാം പലപ്പോഴും ശേഖരിക്കുക എന്നുള്ളത് തന്നെ വളരെ പ്രയാസമാണ്. പക്ഷേ നഗരസഭയിലെ ശുചീകരണ വിഭാഗം തൊഴിലാളികൾ വളരെ കൃത്യമായി സമയബന്ധി ഒരു ദിവസം 3 or 4 സമയം അതിനു വേണ്ടിയിട്ടുള്ള പ്രവർത്തനങ്ങൾ നടത്തുന്നതിലൂടെ അതെല്ലാം ശേഖരിച്ച് നഗരത്തെ സുന്ദര നഗരമാക്കി മാറ്റി നിലനിർത്തുകയാണ്. തീർച്ചയായിട്ടും ഈ അനുഭവത്തിന്റെ അടിസ്ഥാനത്തിലാണ് ഇത്തരമൊരു അനുഭവം ഞങ്ങൾക്കുള്ളത് കൊണ്ട് കേരളത്തിലെ ഏത് തദ്ദേശ സ്വയംഭരണ സ്ഥാപനങ്ങൾക്കും നമുക്ക് അവരുടെ മാലിന്യം സംസ്കരിക്കാൻ കഴിയുന്ന മാതൃകകൾ സൃഷ്ടിക്കാനാകും എന്നാണ് ഞങ്ങളുടെ വിശ്വാസം. തീർച്ചയായിട്ടും കേരളത്തെ മാലിന്യമുക്തമാക്കാൻ വേണ്ടിയിട്ടുള്ള പ്രവർത്തനങ്ങളിൽ നമുക്ക് ഒരുമിച്ച് മുന്നേറാം എന്ന് മാത്രം പറഞ്ഞുകൊണ്ട് ഞാൻ എൻ്റെ വാക്കുകൾ അവസാനിപ്പിക്കുന്നു.
Hello, I'll just briefly summarize what Chairman just mentioned about Guruvayur's model of waste management. So the chairman was explaining his experience working in the temple town of Guruvayur, where they encounter a completely different challenge from the rest of our Kerala ULPs, since they have around 3 crore pilgrims visiting them every year, which is roughly the entire population of Kerala state. And one interesting thing to note is that the entire town's population was just 20,000 at that time. So this is the magnitude of the issue that they were dealing with. And at that time, garbage piling up in and around the town was a very frequent issue. And they had this management practice where 3.5 acres of land was used in a very unscientific manner, which led to several environmental as well as public health concerns that urged the municipality to think differently. And so they started off by dividing or categorizing the kind of waste that they receive. They received roughly 34 tons of waste per day, of which 24 tons was biodegradable. And they had both their floating population as well as resident population contributing to this waste. And so they decided that they'll deal with only the waste that is generated by the floating population, and for the rest of them, the residents, the segregation at source was identified as the best way to address that side of the issue. So the idea of my waste, my responsibility was strongly promoted by the municipality, and so segregation was accepted by the residents. And today they deal with 6.5 tons of biodegradable waste, which is mostly generated by the floating population of pilgrims. So the waste dumping site, which was actually previously used as a dumping site, the 3.5 acres of land is now being transformed into a biopark, where they treat 6.5 ton of biodegradable waste in a scientific manner, and with the help of Harita Karma Sena, of course. And this waste is being transformed or converted into manure, and they have also managed to supply this manure to their farming population, farmers who use them for their agricultural activities. And For the biodegradable waste, what Guruvayur Municipality has done is that they have they're strictly carrying out door-to-door collection with a commendable 84% collection efficiency. And Chairman was also, putting this as a model where the dumping site, which was avoided by a lot of the people, is now through effective transformation and scientific waste management, they have managed to bring this land or reclaim this land as part of their public realm and is used by their people, since it's a biopark and part of the open space. So that is the story of Guruvayur. Thank you, Chairman. Thanks a lot for sharing your experience. It was a pleasure listening to you as always. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Erin. Now I would like to welcome Krishnadass sir on behalf of KILA today to deliver the keynote address. Briefly introducing him, Shri Krishnadass sir is a trained development expert with an academic background in international development and non-profit management and a bachelor's in chemical engineering. His area of focus is on developing solutions for safely managed sanitation in urban and rural areas. Shri Krishna sir has worked on multiple projects advising national and state governments to improve solid and liquid waste management and setting up fecal sludge treatment plants and wastewater management systems incorporating reuse. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Erin. Thanks a lot. Firstly, I would thank KILA, Dr. Rajesh, for inviting me in this such an important event. We are almost on the cusp of finishing 10 years in Swachh Bharat mission. These 10 years have been such a wonderful and beautiful time for many of us who have been in the sanitation sector, that, for years when we have been advocating to push sanitation to be the key focus of government. These last 10 years have been an amazing learning for us also. And the whole event of looking at how we can actually achieve and implement sanitation at scale. Because historically, many of us in the non-profits had been doing work at the pilot level, small scale sanitation, doing in smaller communities or one city. But here, because of the government making Swachh Bharat mission as a priority, we've had this opportunity to really think how we can provide sanitation at scale. And especially in our country, where we have diverse groups of different stakeholders, different demographies, different topography that we have. The learning that India has generated in this now last 10 years is actually a lesson to many globally, many countries around the world. So, I'm really honored that you guys have given me an opportunity to give the keynote address during this time, during the Swachhata Hi Seva event. So, when I was actually thinking about what should I really be talking as a keynote address, I was having many different ideas. I even thought, maybe, let's talk about the sanitation journey that's been in the last 10 years. We in 2014, we started with the whole toilet-based story, and the all these states came, in such a community oriented mechanism. It was a whole mass community behavior change movement that happened in those 5 years. And we all, went together and managed to really achieve the entire country becoming open defecation free. It was announced on 2019, October 2nd, that we were declared open defecation free. While Kerala has been way ahead, it did it much earlier than the rest of the country. But then the next part of the journey started, which was a much more infrastructure driven story. And it was a story of, initially it was all community oriented in the first phase, but the next phase was so much on infrastructure, because we had to set up infrastructure which would treat all this waste, how the waste also would get collected. So this last 5 years has been totally a different kind of learning and a journey that we have seen. So I thought a lot about, whether I should focus on this. But then I was also thinking, shouldn't we even look at where Kerala should aspire in the coming next 5 years? Should we look at, what's happening globally, how people are thinking about sanitation, how new approaches to sanitation are being developed? In fact, even I thought about a presentation to make where, Yuijo sir mentioned, Kerala is really lagging on used water management. You don't have not even 5 or 7% of the waste generated is actually being treated. So how do we, at Washai, we have actually developed a whole methodology on how we can make this whole planning exercise more simpler, and even look at the aspect of this hybrid approach that Joe sir mentioned, having something on decentralized, something centralized. But how do we actually think about it? It's very easy to use the term, do a bit of decentralized, do other centralized, but how do we go about doing it? So in-house, we in fact developed these planning approaches. I thought, okay, let me do that. But I was having a lot more doubts, thinking, it's a keynote address. Let me give a different perspective, a perspective where, I've been lucky to have that experience of working at the ministry level at Mahua and even in DDWS, both on the urban and rural side. And at Washai, we are also working in more than 10 states, where we are helping these states implement Swachh Bharat Mission. And also about 15, 20 ULBs, we are hand-holding them, and more than thousands of villages, we are hand-holding them implement Swachh Bharat Mission. So I thought, let me then talk about what issues that we are confronting with, because this last 5 years has been a complete infrastructure-based story. What challenges that we are seeing, and how some of these challenges I can bucket it into few aspects and give my talk around it. So when I looked at these challenges, somewhere, as basic as the fundamental gaps that we see in understanding sanitation, that gap still persists. Many still do not understand, the fundamental of why we do sanitation. That's a question many have not even thought about it. The reason we do it is for public health and environment. So we many times, keep that public health and environment goal aside and just say, okay, let's do sanitation. But no, we should never forget that goal. Then there are also sometimes, we struggle in the planning aspects itself. And there are some aspects on the implementation side that we really miss. And then there is a bigger devil, or a larger story that's happening globally, which is much larger than sanitation. But that larger devil that's coming, it's going to have massive, massive impact on sanitation. And this larger devil, I'm sure all of you know, is the climate change. The entire humanity is facing a real crisis. And we have to look at this climate change also when we talk and think about sanitation. So with this in mind, I have structured my talk into 4 parts today. And I'll run it fast because I don't want to eat into other presenters' time. My first part that I'm going to talk about is, from the fundamental aspect, is everything is a cycle, or it can be planned to be cyclic. So, this is my first part is going to be. Second part that I'm going to cover is a bit around the challenge of stakeholder engagement. Then the third one is going to be on the importance of business model thinking. And the last one is going to be on the climate change and its impact on sanitation. So it's going to be a 4-part that I will do the talk. So the first part, let's talk about everything is a cycle. So as I said, we do sanitation because it's about public health and environment. And if you start improving the public health and environment, the other impacts of social and economic will happen. And when we are also doing our planning of sanitation, largely we do give a good amount of importance on public health, rightly so. But somewhere we end up, sacrificing a bit on the environment side, because our planning, we tend to be still in linear. Our DPRs, anything that you see, it's prepared in a linear planning basis. We don't really look at as a cycle. So, simplest cycle, all of us have studied in our schools, even our 8th grade or 7th grade, is about water cycle. Water cycle, you have the evaporation, condensation, precipitation, then it happens the runoff usage. Usage is where we use this water and we make the water dirty. And then that's when it becomes used water. And then this water, if we have not used it, it goes through infiltration. And if we have used it, technically it should go through treatment. and go back to the main water bodies and then back to the evaporation. So that cycle is the water cycle. But we are not realizing that gradually we are breaking this water cycle as well. That's where some of the water security issues have been coming up. Similarly, you look at the other key aspect that the sanitation provides is the nutrient. And nutrient also has a cycle. Now you'll be wondering, what is this nutrient cycle? And again, in 8th grade, we have learned about all these nutrients having cycle, the nitrogen cycle, the carbon dioxide cycle. But let's focus specifically on the nutrient. There are a lot of nutrients that's there. And many of these nutrients are in our soil. And this soil, is used for us to make food. So the nutrients gets absorbed by food. And the food that we make is consumed by us or we waste it. Either way, if we consume it, excretion happens, or if we waste it, biodegradation happens. And excretion also goes through biodegradation. And back, after biodegradation, it happens, this nutrient is supposed to go back to the soil. But what we are doing today, we have broken that cycle. Many times, this nutrient is ending up in our water bodies and not going back to the soil. If you look at globally, since 2014-15, everywhere in the UN, we have been crying hue and cry about soil health being deteriorating very fast. And the soil health deterioration is happening actually, every 5 seconds globally. We are losing almost as the soccer field, football field size of land. We are losing that. That is the rapid rate of soil degradation that's happening. And because we are breaking this nutrient cycle, just imagine the crisis on food security that we are going to have. This is going to be a similar challenge to the climate change that we are seeing. So these two are part of the regular cycle, water and nutrient cycle. But we also have the other aspect where I said, everything can be a cycle, or you can plan it to be cyclic. So the example is in the solid waste, when you look at it. In the solid waste, the dry waste, all the dry waste, most of the time, if you look at plastic, the microorganisms have taken millions of years to make crude oil. And this crude oil, we extract. After we extract the crude oil, we make these plastic resins. These plastic resins are then made into any product, design products. It could be a mug, plastic bag, anything, the plastic product. Once this design product is made, then it is distributed and it comes into the hand of us users. We use that product. Some of us are more diligent. We might reuse it, even if it's a plastic bag. We bought some vegetables, we might use that plastic bag for something else. So we internally might be reusing it. But majority of this waste either ends up in landfill, or now, Kerala government, especially as Joe sir said, we've done a good thing of setting up, these different collection centers, the material recovery facilities have been set up. So now we are looking at, bringing the cyclic way there. After we use, we can make these materials that recovered back to making plastic resin and recycle the whole process. So the planning, we can start looking at doing in a cyclic manner. So now, if we start not looking at it again at a cyclic manner, just imagine that this whole thing ending up in landfill and the impact that's going to happen to our environment overall. So this is the first part of my story on the everything is cycle. The second part that I want to touch upon is the stakeholder platform. This is a seriously a challenging situation. In all the planning methodologies, in all our planning approaches, we always talk, we should engage stakeholders when we do the planning. But most of the time, this mantra remains not so actionable because we don't know how to really make it actionable. It's a challenge that we are seeing. We need to accept that in the first place. There are many different stakeholders that we have. ULB itself is a stakeholder, the urban local body or the rural local body. Every citizen is actually a stakeholder. Similarly, we need to understand what these guys want. A commercial player, what do they want? A sanitation worker, what exactly do they want? It's very easy to say when we do the DPR, we actually consult each one. We consult. but we don't have a sort of holistic discussion with them. And some of us, we do, one round of discussion with them saying, these are the solutions. How would we go about implementing this solution? But still, the challenge here is these consultations most of the time remain 1 time or 2 times. We don't look at them creating a city level or a community level, some sort of stakeholder platform that is engaged continuously throughout forever. These guys, some creation of some sort of this sort of platform is so critical that most of our sanitation planning, we always say it is the public sector headache, the ULB or the rural local body, they are responsible. But there are every stakeholder, they are also responsible. Sanitation cannot be done by one stakeholder itself. This part of the stakeholder thing, even I do not have a solution. This is something we have been struggling a lot. We have a lot of theories. And this is something I would put it here in the open forum, how people are really solving this engagement and making the whole sanitation planning transparent and at the same time, or everyone responsible. It's not one person's responsibility. Then the third part that I want to talk about is on the business model, the importance of business model. Now, the first thing that I want to, set up a context here, not even context, just clear out some of the thinking that people have when I use the term business model. People start thinking business means I can make money. So typically we get Marwadis in our head, but no, let's correct that thinking, because business model is not just about, to make money, to make profiteering here. Business model is basically how we think of defining engagement of each stakeholder. What is the relationship between each stakeholders? It could be financial relationship, it could be a relationship of service provision, or it could be a relationship of regulation, how the monitoring happens. So this whole system that comes together, that we call it as business model. But here, we are giving very loose and weak importance to business model. A lot of the sanitation work that happens is infrastructure planning. And then they say, okay, we tender out the O&M contract. And because there is some pressure from the Ministry of Housing Urban Affairs or from Department of Drinking Water and Sanitation, the states have to provide some service level benchmark indicators or provide them the monitoring indicators. This is the data that states and urban local bodies constantly are collecting whenever MoHUA or DDWS has some demands from them. But what is happening is there is very limited thinking being given of what should be a cost at which a service can be delivered. At the ministry level, they have set up these service level benchmarks, but it's now becomes the duty of the state and the urban local body to set up their own benchmarks related to the service level benchmarks. As simple as, a struggle that I've had. I've asked many people this question. What does it really cost you to do door-to-door service on a per capita basis? What is the most efficient way to do it? This is a question many people have struggled to respond, including in the urban local bodies. Everyone tells me, we just pay this person so much O&M on a monthly basis or annually, this is what we pay. But we don't know what is the cost of service delivery. This is something so critical that we need to have in each component of our sanitation value chain. What is the cost of service delivery for each item in there, be it in the solid waste or be it in the liquid waste? Then the second part, this also, if you are able to define this service cost, then the ULB will be able to decide what should be the actual subsidy that we should provide right now for this service, and gradually over time, how we can achieve complete cost recovery and reduce the subsidy on the residents. Today, we don't know. We just say, okay, we are not able to cover this much of operation and maintenance, so we will just cover it through the subsidy or through the transfers, budget transfers, that the money comes and they use it, or they will blindly use the 15th Finance Commission, which is allowed to use for O&M purpose. They will blindly use it, but nobody will track this data. Now, the other part on the business model, and this is something Jose sir also touched upon, this is on understanding the scale of certain business operations. Some businesses, work only at a certain scale. So he gave the example of recycling. So, you have set up, or each of the, how many recyclings does the state of Kerala need? And this recycling cannot be done at each individual ULB level. It has to be done at 1 or 2 or 3 such recycling units. Similarly, material recovery facilities, you cannot do it for every rural local body. You will have to cluster many of them and do the material recovery facility. There are similar examples also on the composting unit. The data says at the minimum, if you want to make it viable, 1 to 3 ton of compost production per day would achieve certain viability. But there is a big but there. The but comes from who is your end customer for that compost and what are they willing to pay for that compost. That, along with your size of the compost plant, determines your overall viability. Then there is also another part of the service part which we do not really focus when we look at the business model. There are certain businesses which require daily service. Something like providing door-to-door solid waste collection service. It's a daily effort. So the service frequency is on a daily basis. But then when you look into the FSM side, the fecal sludge management, your desludging service, as long it is not a daily service, it is largely on the demand when your septic tank is full, or when your septic tank is overflowing, or when your toilet has a backflow. That's when you need the requirement of this service. So the business model thinking for this also changes. And when you bring in the whole circularity, like my first part that I said, thinking about cycle, your service model changes and becomes a product-based business model. Because most of the time, sanitation is a service that we provide. But the minute we make it circular, so we are making products. Compost is a product. This product needs to be sold to someone. So you need to start applying the product-based business model theory. This is something many times we don't apply and do not develop the right kind of business model. I'll come to my last part of the talk, which is on the climate change. Now, climate change, this, everyone has heard this word. It is not that, it is coming. Climate change is already here. When I was studying, in my 8th grade, this was back in the early 90s, we used to tell about this 1.5 degrees Celsius it to reach. This Feb 2024, it was declared that entire world actually experienced increase by 1.5 degrees Celsius. And scientists have said that now the frequency of 1.5 degrees Celsius will happen once every 5 years. So that means climate change is here. We have really failed miserably as a humanity to avoid this 1.5 degree Celsius increase of that temperature. Now the impact of this climate change is going to have on all these 3 parts, the previous 3 parts that I mentioned. It is going to disrupt our cycle. The water cycle is going to be disrupted. The nutrient cycle is going to be disrupted. Then the second, the stakeholder platform that we need a lot more diverse set of stakeholders to come to the table to discuss about this climate change and that impact that it will have on sanitation. And then the business models also have to be changed, because climate change is going to seriously rethink how we have to plan our business model. Now, today we are just talking climate change. We have to start looking at our infrastructure planning should start along with the climate change. The Kerala state has already done one of the best jobs that Kerala state did was it distributed the precipitation increase. So the Kerala state has already given this data to every ULB in the state, saying when the extreme precipitation is going to happen in the coming years. So this data is so important in your planning of many infrastructure. But we have to now start looking at how we can not just incorporate this extreme precipitation, but also there are other climate change issues. There is extreme heat, there is drought, Kerala has a huge coastal line, the sea level rise, and even though Kerala does not have water security issues, With all these factors playing, gradually Kerala state will also start seeing water security issues. So climate change now has to become integral to our any infrastructure planning. And this is something we have been extensively trying to work out solutions around this. There is also another impact that climate change has. Our entire urban planning today that we have done, majority of urban planning is a significant blunder. And because of these blunders, there are many places in India where flooding happens because of our poor urban planning. It is not really climate change. But then imagine, because of climate change and our poor urban planning in a combination, what are the sort of disaster we are going to face in terms of our sanitation infrastructure? That repercussion we have to start paying a lot more attention to. So, I just want to close out because I've already taken significant time here. I just want to repeat these 4 points that I wanted to mention. And for you all to start thinking that, in the next 5 years, how much of these in our sanitation planning, implementation, monitoring, we can incorporate these. First one, again, being everything is a cycle or can be planned as a cycle. Second, and this is a solution that I don't have, is how we can consciously look at developing a stakeholder platform where diverse stakeholders are involved, and sanitation is not just a problem of the urban local body and rural local body. It is all these stakeholders coming together and planning. Third, we have to start giving importance to business model. Sanitation is not just about setting up of infra and giving someone the O&M contract. It is about consciously thinking who is the customer, which stakeholder has which type of responsibility, who does the monitoring, at what frequency they do the monitoring, what is the cost of the service, what is the scalability of a solution, at what scale a certain solution has to operate, and who needs to operate that. These questions have to be incorporated and a business model has to be planned. And lastly, the larger demon, climate change, has to be considered in our planning. I'll stop at that. And I sincerely hope you all have a very good session, the following 3 presentations that's going to be coming up. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for sharing your opinion on shifting the perspective that we are looking at sanitation now, and on why we need to go back to the reasons why we are looking at sanitation, and also sharing the 4 points which are key to building a new perspective. Now I would like to invite our 2 discussants. One, sorry. First, we have Srimati Shobha Raghavan, who is the Chief Operating Officer of Saahas Zero Waste, where they work towards enabling sustained growth and impact by offering holistic services to municipal solid waste, plastic waste, electronic waste, and electronic waste to corporates. Their operations-intensive solution is based on the principle of circular economy, bringing about social and environmental impact. And our second discussant is Srimati Latha Raman Jayagopal, co-founder, Inspiration Collective. Srimati Latha is the co-founder of Inspiration Collective, a multidisciplinary collective based in Kochi, working towards sensitively creating living environments, and guides the design, interpretation, project management, and technical teams of Inspiration, besides playing a key role in concepts of total water waste management and relevant renewable energy applications. She is also a founding partner and the current president of CDD, that is Consortium for Divorce Dissemination Society India, and has been instrumental in developing concepts and implementation of several projects in the water and sanitation sector. So first I invite Srimati Shobha Raghavan to share her insights on the theme. Madam, over to you.
Thank you so much, and thanks for giving us this opportunity. I will just share my screen. If you can please kindly give me permission to share my screen. Yes, I'm able to share now.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Can you confirm if you can see my screen?
Yes, ma'am, it's visible.
Yeah, good. Okay. So quickly, who are we? We are Saahas Zero Waste. We are a social business established 11 years back, and we are headquartered at Bangalore. Today, I would like to present what are the best practices we've been able to build and replicate through a decentralized model for bulk waste generators in across Bangalore, Chennai, Hyderabad, Goa, NCR, which are considered the urban jungles. Of course, I know a lot of Kochi has also now started getting the bulk waste generators. So we have this entire zero waste program that is very holistic and integrated, and where we actually start with waste audits, which kind of gives a baseline study of how what is your current processes on waste, from right from segregation and source to process to alignment of the right infrastructure. And after I analyze this, after we do the audit, we kind of give a solution of how waste can be processed both on-site and off-site. Now, this kind of engagement is quite intensive, and then we also put our workers on the site. We train them, and we help manage the food waste as much as possible on-site. And only dry waste is then sorted in a high level format, and then we have built a lot of MRFs where we can sort the waste into 25-30 categories, and from there we map it to the different recyclers. Now we have taken this one level above, that we also try to ensure that all events within that bulk waste generator campus are zero waste. We also take them to zero waste certifications, which are like global benchmarks, which helps them embrace zero waste more at a policy level rather than just doing it as a waste management service. Now a lot of these bulk waste generators are also in constant mode of construction, demolition, reconstruction, and therefore C&D waste has also become very critical in our services. So all our services are aligned to the to 7 to 8 SDGs, and this is where our customers actually find value in this whole proposition. So our engagement starts with actually awareness and training of the employees in the different facility management teams, and identifying the right infrastructure, building a solution for on-site or off-site processing, then showing them traceability that their waste has actually gone to this kind of a recycler. So because of which they will be able to submit their sustainability reports and hence also bring in their responsibility that waste is correctly managed in a circular fashion. Over and above all of this, we also have kind of built a data traceability tool, which is quite digital, which kind of gives them the entire flow of waste and other aspects related to waste in terms of categories and such things, which helps us engage with them and optimize our waste and solutions. So in this entire process of material recovery, which is very key to circular economy, some of the 10 critical things that are that we've kind of identified over time is giving enough space for waste management and not just giving us a corner in a site, which then becomes a very disastrous. Second, there should be right infrastructure. Putting out 24-hour composters are not solutions, because these are not giving quality compost which can actually give nutrition to the soil. Segregation at source, ensuring the right supply chain, which means all waste is coming in on a daily basis for us to actually build an economic or business model around it. Scale of operations, that's why we have focused on bulk waste generator, because unless you have a scale of operation as a private organization, it becomes difficult to sustain. We need a service fee, because just cost of just sorting waste and giving to recycler does not fund that supply chain, because our entire supply chain is formal from all our employees who work there, and also our MRFs are set up in industrial areas so that there's no disturbance because of residential any nuisances to residences that may come out because of stench or other things, and therefore getting a service fee from the customer, and therefore giving waste management as a service is very, very critical for us. Sorting efficiency is very critical, because you can we've now and then had different kinds of technologies that can help us sort better, but this is a very evolving thing. Social inclusion, because very critical that the informal sector is also included in the supply chain as we build our services. Data is very critical, because today without data we are not able to understand where is the problem and where do we need to improve and create a solution, and financial sustainability. Now this whole chain has to be financial sustainable for companies like us to actually offer a solution that really works. Now, through these services, what are the kinds of waste we are able to handle? The municipal solid waste, the horticultural waste, e-waste, textile waste, construction debris waste and other bulky kind of waste like furniture or mattress or such thing. So with respect to municipal solid waste, the food, dry and sandy waste, we look at solutions on-site or off-site. Again, these are daily services. Dry waste, we try to ensure that it is done off-site in MRFs, and sandy waste, we generally have authorized people who can actually collect the sandy waste. Now, because we've been able to bring out this kind of we focus a lot on segregation. This is how we are able to collect the food waste and dry waste. And if you see that we have tried to use bins because we're trying to phase out liners as much as possible, because those liners are again bags which go into the landfill. And it is very much possible in a controlled campus to have food waste collected without the liners. Now, we have been able to build MRS in order to sort the dry waste, and we have the technical capacity to actually give consulting. And we have our own MRS in some of the larger cities, but otherwise we also share our knowledge with a lot of the partners. With respect to e-waste, textile waste, and CND, which are episodic waste, we try to do collection drives, and then we ensure that collections once you show that you are a partner who we are one-stop solution for all your waste, then what happens is they do contact us on regular basis when they have these other kind of episodic waste. So if you see, this is how a CND waste, because even CND waste requires segregation at source, and we give them a lot of training to ensure the different materials of construction are kind of segregated so that then the CND waste becomes recoverable. Otherwise, that also can then end up in a landfill. So if you see, even a horticulture waste is like separately stored. Your dry leaves are separate from the kind of grass and litter, because then again it becomes easy for us from a perspective of processing. This is how we have enabled textile collection with a lot of gated communities where, again, fast fashion is creating all of this problem. Bulky waste like mattresses are also creating problem. All of these we have these collection systems. These are some of the installation of different kinds of decentralized composters that we have. This is, of course, our MRF where we're able to sort 25, 30 categories of waste. Now, because this entire journey of waste management has now transitioned to circular economy, we have also set up a refurbishing facility where we actually refurbish laptops. And again, there's a section of the community which can actually look at such refurbished laptops for their own digitization. Again, circular economy means that we have to be using products made out of resources that have been extracted from waste. So we have a whole range of paper products, a whole range of plastic products made of multi-layered plastic, whole range of textile products that are upcycled from, let's say, like jeans material, which are like last forever. So these are things. This is how we are able to resource recover, and everything need not go for recycling, right? There's a lot of things that can be upcycled and continue. Now, our impact report is very, very critical to all our partners, and hence we give them the impact reports, how they have been able to attain certain SDGs because of the waste management services that we have given. Just to conclude, so the journey in the last 10 years has been quite mixed, and therefore a few recommendations from our side would be, on a policy side, how do we focus on circular economy in the cities and therefore have decentralized solutions within the cities? How can we effectively enforce the SUP ban? Looking at reuse and refill, because consumption has to reduce and therefore packaging has to reduce, and therefore reuse refill become very critical. There are still a lot of complex materials which do not have recycling. They are either informally recycled or downcycled, and that could be a big waste of resources. There's new bioplastics that have come, degradable, biodegradable, and composite. Still a very confusing signal that has come in, because if you are using that as a garbage liner, it is impossible to identify whether it's compostable or not, because it's anyway contaminated food waste and kind of creates confusion in our material recovery facilities, and finally ends up going towards co-processing, and it's a big waste of resource, and therefore there is no industrial composting in any part of the country, and this has created a lot of confusion with respect to this particular kind of plastic. So on the financial side, EPR is there now as a part of a business model. EPR could fund certain types of low value plastics, and it is pushing for recycling. However, sensitization of EPR to different kinds of producers, to the ULBs and all is still, I would say, very low. And this entire logistics of recycling, sometimes there are no recyclers in some states, and it becomes economically unviable to send it there. But then that is something that we need to look at the state level to see how to solve the problem. Similarly, RDF, which is going for co-processing. Now, from an implementation side, again, we have been a private organization trying to set up MRFs, and it takes very long time for approvals to come for set up MRFs. So that kind of dissuades us from actually scaling up our MRF and systems, and therefore they should, for waste management, we should have some quick approval systems. And there is a whole set of bulk waste generators in the form of public sector units who are not actually complying to the government regulations. And if we target them, they generate easily 10-15 tons of waste per day. And I feel that is a very low hanging fruit for us from actually this city level waste. And of course, monitoring and evaluation are very critical. Now, as much as EPR for plastic and e-waste has become very centrally controlled with the pollution control board, the same kind of monitoring evaluation is not happening for solid waste, and therefore from a category of bulk waste generator, how do they report back to the state on different on their waste management? Who are their partners? What are they doing? And such things. So I would stop here to say that these have been this is some of our work and some of the challenges that we would like to share with you as improvements in the next thing. Thank you so much. Handing over to you.
Thank you so much, Shobha ma'am. Thank you for sharing the model that you're following and the focus on recycling and segregating the waste. Thank you so much for your valuable insights from the field. Now I would like to invite Latha ma'am. Over to you, ma'am.
I'd like to share my screen too.
Sure, ma'am.
Yeah.
You have the permission.
I hope it's visible.
Yes, ma'am, it is visible.
Okay. Yeah, I know we are almost in the fag end of it, but let me start by saying thank you to KILA for this meaningful round of discussions. I'll go straight to the topic. I think in the first session itself, Mr. Jose emphasized the fact that there's been very, very little that Kerala has been able to achieve in terms of liquid waste or used water management. And he also spoke about several challenges that has gone into it. I think after that, Mr. Tikender also pointed out very significant points in that we have to really identify actual situations, and you can't go for a one solution fits all kind of a thing. So I will just get started with my presentation. So I think when we talk about used water management for every local body, be it a panchayat to a corporation, the aspiration is often the centralized system where you flush all your water goes into large sewers, a centralized sewage treatment plant, and then hopefully it goes back to nature, to the river or whatever after treatment. While this is this is a practice which has been practiced all over the West and other parts, in many other parts of the developed world in that sense. But in many of those countries itself, people are now realizing that these are very, very expensive to maintain, rehaul after a certain while. There are a lot of limitations in planning. You really don't know which part of the city is going to expand, etc., etc. So some of the challenges of centralized systems are again very high capex, capital investment, at least 15,000 to 25,000 is the government of India's own statistics as part of SBM2, which means that even for a small town like Alleppey or something with about a 1 lakh population, you're now talking about an investment of about 200 crore. And more importantly, it needs large sets of land in one particular area where you want to kind of take all the water and treat it. Besides the entire land requirement for laying your sewer lines and all that, all these again add to a lot of the OPEX, that is operation costs, are very, very high. And because of all these reasons, very few local bodies are able to afford setting up sewage treatment plants. And wherever it is set up, almost 50% of the installed capacity, right, exactly as what Mr. Jose was saying, is often underutilized because you're not able to take the wastewater. Setting up the network, I think this is one thing that everyone needs to understand. When we talk about a centralized sewage treatment facility, it is not the technology or not setting up the sewage treatment plant per se, which is a challenge. There are so many technologies, so many things are being done, several MLDs are being established, but we are not able to connect it because of the peculiar geographical situations or very high density of population, most of our areas. And therefore, they just remain as underutilized after spending a lot of money. And finally, what you see is a lot of pollution of all our water bodies, because Kerala ultimately, we take pride in our water bodies, but almost 90% of our water bodies are heavily, or I would say even 100% of water bodies are actually heavily polluted with wastewater that is being let out from small and bigger sources, leading to a lot of weed proliferation and water bodies becoming anoxic, etc. It also pollutes the soil. So over the last, I think, almost 30 years, so as I was introduced, I'm also I'm a co-founder of CDD India. We have started working in the sector of decentralized wastewater management from as early as 2001, or even earlier, I suppose, 2000, I think. And over 600, 700 systems have been built. I know several other organizations are also have been working on decentralized approaches. And I think it's now established that treating your waste, be it solid waste or liquid waste, as close to the source is the easiest way to kind of treat it, as well as it helps with the closing of loop, which was also discussed earlier by many of the speakers. But this has limitations, whether you will have enough land within your property to kind of set up your wastewater treatment system. So the alternate approach might be to have a cluster level system. So you have like a group of houses. It could be like a housing colony. It could be like a school. It could be a hospital, where there are several hundreds of people, or even up to a couple of thousand of people living and working, and you could kind of set up treatment systems within that cluster. Is a much more tangible kind of looking at it. The advantages being that you can design systems which are modular, like you don't have to plan, whereas as compared to large treatment systems, which you have to plan 15 years ahead and all that, you don't even know how the city or town is going to grow. You can build it in a modular manner, and it's expandable. You don't need to invest everything in one go. It can be built, because a smaller system, it can be built using local resources and skills, simpler technologies. They're much more robust because they are smaller, and you're not kind of, most of these decentralized systems are nature-based solutions. I think most of us who are sitting in this discussion know what nature-based solutions are. So they're much more robust. They are much more effective in closing the loops. They use very little or hardly any chemicals. So therefore, the life cycle of the STPs is much, much more. And therefore, when you look at life cycle costs, they are almost 50% lower in life cycle costs, because OPEX is very, very marginal. And they don't have any kind of chemicals or moving parts and all that, which adds to the O&M. So I think these are all tested, and I think CDD ourselves have built, I said, over 600, 700 systems. Some very big system. This has been running for almost 18 years now. Aravind Hospital for 3 lakh liters per day. We have done it for several resorts. There's one which has been running for the last, again, I think almost 20 years. It's a very high-end yoga retreat, which has won several awards from Pollution Control Board itself. Smaller systems which are very well within the urban area. This is a community sanitation facility in Bombay, which totally recycles the wastewater. Larger water body rejuvenation projects where you kind of tap the wastewater, treat it, and let it back into the water body. Because I would take back from what Mr. Krishna was saying about, we have to be conscious about this whole elephant in the room, the climate change, the impact of waste in our with relation to our water availability, water security, etc. So it's important that we secure whatever we have. CDD has also been instrumental in setting up the first FSTP in Devanahalli. I think many of you would have probably visited it. It kind of opened up the fact that you had a solution to kind of close the loop if you are adopting for a decentralized approach. So having done all these things, and of course, there's been several improvisation from Devanahalli, depending from Leh down to Kerala in different situations, how you kind of adapt the FSTP designs depending on the climate, the land availability, the quantity available, etc. Now, coming to the challenges of liquid waste management or used water management in Kerala, I think our problem is much. Now, I've been working with projects almost all over the country, and I realize Kerala is most challenging, mainly because we are a very small state with a very high density of population. We are most urbanized in the country. Mr. Tikender was saying that, I don't know, one of the earlier speakers said that Kerala is already more than 50% or 60% urbanized. And we are very soon going to reach that almost 80-90% urbanization, which makes a huge pressure on land. But along with that, we are actually on a very fragile ecosystem. Most of our areas, almost all our bigger urban areas, have very high water table. They are either along the coast or they are close to the backwaters, and which makes it very, very difficult. Along with that, we have had it traditionally, we've been dependent on groundwater to a great degree. So therefore, even now, many parts of our many local bodies, we are not getting 24-hour reliable water supply. So this combination of lack of availability of 100% reliable water supply, high water table, lack of proper sanitation, very fragile ecology, very high density of population. This is really a very, very, very difficult combination to tackle this thing. But this is something, so having done a lot of smaller interventions, when we started kind of working with local bodies and trying to see how we can actually address this scaling of this kind of a decentralized approach, I realized, and this is what I'm going to focus on what are the components that we need to focus if we are trying to go, given that centralized systems are not going to be practical in many areas. I would also completely agree with Mr. Joe saying that we need to look at hybrid situations. There might be places where your water table is very low, where you have land available, where gradients are permissible, etc., where you could go for a centralized sewage treatment facility. No, nothing against that. But in places where your water table is very high, your density of population is very high, where you hardly have land to kind of set up, we will have to clearly look at the decentralized approach as a policy decision. Now, these are some of our examples of liquid waste management at cluster level that we have done. I think ALP project, most of the people who are working in the liquid waste sector in Kerala would have visited. It was a model which started off with a water body rejuvenation of the canal network of ALP, but where we focus that unless we tackle the pollution that is entering into the smaller water bodies, we will not be able to rejuvenate the larger water bodies. So this was actually looking at the sanitation shortfall, setting up decentralized infrastructure system, simplified sewer system for a cluster level system, which can also, and we kind of identified about 10 or 11 replicable replicable models which could be adapted for any water body rejuvenation or any sanitation situation across the state or even across the country or even abroad. So ALP Municipal Corporation took a lot of initiative into this. We had a good support of all the stakeholders, including Suchitwa Mission and Kerala Water Authority, etc. And it was quite a matter of pride for us that finally ALP actually won the Swachh Sarvekshan Award for best practices in liquid waste management for small cities, which came quite as a recognition. Taking forward, I think this has very much influenced Kerala's sanitation policy that decentralized systems can work. We have gone on. Even now, the other major thing about the ALP project was that the local community has taken ownership of it. 5 years down the line, I think we finished it in 2019, I think we finished it. Down the line, anyone can go there. You talk to the women. In fact, I had some beautiful videos of some of the women talking about their changing situations. I don't have time, so I'm not sharing it. But the fact that if you're giving them sensitive, sustainable solutions, people will take ownership. I don't think that everywhere people are going to create objections. It's often that people don't know what to kind of really believe or not, what really makes sense and all that. But if you can handhold them and take it forward, I'm sure a lot of communities will be very much forth. And this, we were talking about the most marginalized communities. These are again some pictures of the ALP thing. This is 5 years later, how the community is still kind of maintaining the entire system and looking after it with the support of the municipality, of course. This was another example that we did for another community. This is near Alua, where there was a similar community of about 48 or 52 houses, something like that, where we started off thinking whether we could do a cluster level system, but we realized that it was impossible because of the high water table and also because the community was not a very homogeneous community. So this was one place where what we did is that we actually gave them small, compact, single household wastewater treatment systems where they could treat both their black and gray water, and the recycled water is actually reused, and we gave them saplings so that they could actually reuse it to kind of create green fences, growing vegetables. did have pictures of it, but I couldn't put it the last minute. So finally, how do we actually approach a decentralized wastewater management for a small town or city? Now, as I said, the installation of technology for the treatment system is often not the challenge. The challenges are, one is you're dealing with existing toilets, and how do you kind of connect it to prevent backflows, uplift breakages of plumbing lines, etc. are all challenges in high water table, high density areas. The other most important thing is, how do we actually do a correct kind of a containment? Now, we all talk about FSTPs and all that. I think there was also a question that I think Tikender raised, that how do we even know how many are actually septic tanks? So there was a very interesting study which was done by IIT Bombay in Alleppey, where they did an extensive study of containments where most people said that they were actually septic tanks, but it came out that probably only about 30% were actually really totally impermeable tanks which were designed with a capacity as a properly designed septic tanks. The rest were all, because it's often only the plumber who actually does it, or the contractor who builds it, who knows what kind of a tank has been built. Everything goes under the soil and nobody even really knows. So those kind of containments are not really doing their job. Similarly, small commercial establishments don't often have a proper containment. So while we talk about FSTPs, we have to be conscious that unless we have proper containments, then FSTP need not work effectively, because your water is already getting contaminated. The septic tank takes, at best, a good design septic tank will do only 25 to 30% treatment. As per mandate of KSPCB, all users discharging more than 10 cubic meters are supposed to set up their own treatment systems. However, in reality, most treatment plants are suboptimal in design, even more suboptimal in operation. When we talk about towns and cities, there are also a lot of surge loads. It might be like a monsoon camp. We are talking about climate change. Lot of situations like floods or tidal variations or earthquakes or anything can happen where suddenly people will have to be accommodated, huge numbers of people, which becomes a challenge for the local body, where to kind of accommodate them. Mostly they are accommodated in schools or small halls and all that, which don't have proper sanitation facility. All this is again getting badly let off, leading to huge health challenges, contamination of soil, contamination of water body, etc. All these need to be considered actually. And of course, the present system for disposal of fecal sludge, we have very, very little installed FSTPs. Invariably, even though there are associations of sludge operators and all that, they also work in very risky environments because there is no place for them to go and dump the waste. They are often beaten up by people, or they end up discharging fly-by-the-night kind of things. And it's not a very good scene. I think all of us know about this. There's been some very serious concerns where people have actually died because of such situations. So last 3-4 slides, I think if we are looking at scaling up a decentralized approach at a city level, I think what we need to focus on 5 things. One is we have to start with reviewing and upgradation of existing unscientific containment practice to ensure safe containment at source. I think this is one thing that every local body has to be conscious if they want to get into adopting a decentralized approach. This is to ensure that the supernatant does not contaminate the groundwater and soil. Then the second thing is that we need to have a proper system for planned desludging of containment. Because septic tank, if it is not desludged as per the design period, it is just the sludge is going to get accumulated, and the water that goes out will again be a high BOD water. We need to ensure proper systems for safe conveyance of the fecal sludge. As I said, everywhere you may not need these large kind of big tankers who charge like 5,000, 6,000. If it's only for a small household, you may actually go for a smaller conveyance system. Setting up of appropriate fecal sludge treatment facilities, of course, and then proper institutional mechanisms to operate and maintain the systems. So one thing that I think KILA is organizing thing. I don't know how many of you know that in KILA, actually, CDD, and we have actually set up 14 systems of on-site containment options, from twin pit latrines to simple septic tanks with soak pits, to improved septic tanks, to recyclable household level DWAT systems, smaller cluster level DWAT systems, what is available in the market like package systems from Syntex and or whatever. So depending on the particular need of the local body, if they are in a low water table area, low density of population, they can actually opt for even like a twin pit system might be okay, or a simple septic tank should be good enough. But if they are talking about high water table areas, they will at least need to do an improved septic tank, because even the supernatant can then be brought down to less than 100 milligram per BOD, which is the pollution control board standard. So I think it would be good if all local bodies kind of visit. These are some of the systems that have been demonstrated there. There's an eco digester, there's an improved septic tank, there's a household level DWATS on the top left, which is done for the director's house. This is a cluster level system which has been done for about 7 or 8 houses. These are package systems available in the market. Bulk generators should be mandated by the pollution control board to set up their own treatment systems. I think local bodies should make use of pollution control board to enforce the norms very properly. Plant desludging of containments. I think we have apps for solid waste management. I think the local bodies should move towards actually setting up systems for, sorry, am I audible?
Yes, ma'am, you're audible. No. I think we have lost her at the moment.
Can wait for 2 minutes.
Yeah, we can wait for 2 minutes if she can join back. Meanwhile, I request the participants to raise their suggestions or their clarification. Okay, Latha ma'am has joined back.
Sorry, yeah, just 2 more minutes. I think somehow my system suddenly kind of some
Sure,
network issues. Yeah. Visible?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So last couple of slides. So yeah. So we were talking about moving, the local body can move towards a planned desludging for every part of the city through an app, and the trained, the licensed operators should be kind of given access to this app so that they can plan with the local body and set up a computerized desludging calendar, which is all very much possible with the kind of technology advancement that Kerala particularly has. We may have to custom design safe conveyance options. Not everywhere, as I said, you may need large containment tanks, large conveyance tanks. They could be kind of like small jeeps, which can be retrofitted as smaller containments. In some cases, when you have high water bodies around, maybe even desludging by boats or very small systems, which can be like handheld things like the gulpers could be explored. Then coming on FSTPs, I think from Sharada ma'am, everyone always talks about non-availability of land for setting up FSTPs. I think one option that we could think of is that the advantage about FSTPs is that you can scale up the FSTPs to the requirement that you need. So probably it's not necessary that the city plans for just one FSTPs. They can be like 3 or 4 smaller FSTPs, small to mid-size, ranging from say about 5 KLD or whatever, depending on how much capacity that you need to set up, so that you can actually fit it within about 20 cents of land or 25 cents of land. And it's not necessary that one needs to have. And there you can also look at hybrid systems, so that everywhere it need not be that if you don't have the land, you can actually have hybrid system of FSTPs. What is very important, I think, is participative planning from the planning stage through the implementation and O&M. I think you need citizens to be watchdog, which often is a big challenge because it's always the bigger organizations who kind of do all these projects and people are not aware of what is happening. So it'll be good to have citizens committees and engage them in all the conversations. And ideally, the situation should be like this. I just took it from Google. I think it's from the National Sanitation Policy, where the user can actually call up, the desludging comes, the waste is managed, there is an end product, there is closing of loop, etc. So policy recommendations. Finally, I think land is a key determinant. I think it is very, very important that everything starts from proper land use planning. I think Mr. Jose also mentioned the need for proper master plans. I would underline that thing. I think every local body needs a master plan for sure, where proper land use planning is done so that there is enough land available for all infrastructure systems. As said, not everything may be possible to be limited to just at a panchayat level and all that. Some things may have to be looked at a district level, so that some of these for a city may not have an area, so they may have to lean on a local panchayat for land, etc. So that interconnection is also probably important. Most importantly, we have to change over to safe containment in a time-bound manner. That's very, very important. Mandating bulk generators to set up their own treatment systems through proper policy decisions. Regulating private desludging operators so that it is done in a structured manner. Exploring PPP models. Now, I've done a lot of work with Alleppey Municipality as well as Cochin Corporation, where we were part of the master plan committee, in fact. So there are a lot of private sector people who are even willing to give the land and set up the treatment system, provided they are given the licenses to collect and convey and treat the thing, because they find value in kind of recovery of nutrients, etc. So this is something that local bodies should definitely explore with the right framework, of course. Capacity building of contractors, government officials, and SHGs, because most of these things do not need any sophisticated equipment and all that. They're all like what can be done by local contractors. It will be a lot of green jobs that can be created, only that the mindset has to change to look at it rather than looking at one large system getting maintained somewhere. Then there has to be a streamlining of the design, project management, and implementation. I think you need to get the right professionals to design the entire, visualize the whole thing right from changeover to containment, defining what kind of conveyance is possible, the computerization part of it, the operation and maintenance, getting the people's participation, all these things, you should be able to kind of get good professionals involved in it. And then, of course, it can be streamlined as a proper institutional mechanism for going. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you for sharing the different models that have worked out and for sharing the viable solutions. Now we have a presentation by Advocate Neha Kurian, who is the legal coordinator of Malinyamuktham Navakeralam. She is the legal coordinator of Waste Free Kerala campaign, where she blends in her experience in and expertise in environmental law with public policy innovation. She has over 9 years of experience in the relevant field. I request Advocate Neha to take the presentation.
Thank you, team. Can I share my screen?
Yes, sure.
I hope it's visible. Is it full screen?
It hasn't been, like, I can just see the message that
Okay.
shared the screen.
All right. It's up now, no?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, okay. All right. So thank you so much. And thank you especially for putting me at the end of such an August panel. It's indeed an honor. So I would just like to run through my presentation because I think we're already a little over time. But I would like to just highlight some of the points of the Malinyamuktham Navakeralam campaign 23-24, which the Kerala government, local self-government department has been involved in for over the last 1.5 years. Jose had been kind enough to, in fact, highlight most of the essential elements of what we've been doing over the last 1.5 years. I would just like to add some points, especially some legal angles to the whole campaign, whatever we've been doing. So, as we know, we follow a decentralized waste management structure in Kerala. And essentially, though we've been talking about the campaign only since 2023, we also have to understand the fact that our story starts way before that, especially since 2017. The Retd mission has been involved in a lot of activities to strengthen the decentralized solid waste management activities in the state. We are all familiar with terms such as the Green Protocol or the Haritha Senas, etc., especially since 2017 itself. It was on that foundation essentially that we were able to build the campaign. The campaign essentially came into its current form post the Brahmapuram fire incident, which was in March 23. So the activities that we were taking forward until then basically got a huge impetus or push post when the Honorable High Court actually took it up. The High Court basically had one mandate for Kerala, which was that there should be stricter implementation of the solid waste management rules. Not that we were not following it until then. 2016, the solid waste management rules came into form. But what we had essentially been ignoring as far as the SWM rules was concerned was that there was a lot of timelines that were given in the SWM rules, which we were not able to follow in Kerala. Not that it's just in Kerala, there's been a lot of monitoring from the national level. Other states are also on track to achieving it. But in Kerala, especially because of a lot of concerns that earlier panelists had highlighted, Kerala has been facing a lot of problems, so which essentially led to the problem of Brahmapuram fire in the first place. So the High Court's emphasis was to have a one-year plan wherein all of those targets that are given under the solid waste management rules come into fruition at the end of the year. So the High Court, just to highlight what they're doing right now, High Court has set timelines in its original orders post the Brahmapuram incident in writ petition 7844 of 2023. And High Court has now taken up special monitoring of Kochi and Trivandrum corporations also. Kochi post the Brahmapuram fire incident and Trivandrum especially following Mr. Joy's death in the Amaranjan Tode. So High Court is now following a more supervisory monitoring role in that regard. The essentials of what we are carrying out under the campaign was laid down by the state government, local self-government department itself, with a set of timelines that we were intending to follow and a monitoring and review mechanism, which essentially is not from the SWM rules, but which is more original to our campaign itself. Laptop seems to be a little slow. I hope you can see the next slide. Okay, so the targets essentially set up in the given to the High Court, and in fact, which formed the foundation of our campaign, was that there'd be 100% source segregation of our waste. I think I will cut my video if that will help. Okay, so the targets that we set to the High Court were very simple, that we would ensure 100% source segregation, that includes 100% door-to-door collection of waste, that we'd go for 100% source segregation, source treatment as much as possible of organic waste, that we'd ensure removal of all garbage dumps, or as we know it now, garbage vulnerable points, ensure cleaning of all water bodies, and also bring into place a whole monitoring and coordination mechanism for coordinating the various agencies and private organizations that are involved in waste management in the state. So as we know, the whole infrastructure in Kerala is quite massive. Under the local self-government department itself, we have multiple agencies that are involved in solid waste management. We have the principal directorate from the LSGD that's handling it. Then they have the Retd mission. We have the Kerala Solid Waste Management Project. We have the Suchitwa mission. We have capacity building under the Kerala Institute of Local Administration. We have the CKCL, which is the government's company itself for handling waste. Then we have also the Kudumbashree, which essentially runs the Harita Karma Senas, and also we have the Navakeralam Karma Paddhati, which is also the campaign of the state government itself over to bring all of these into fruition. Going for the organizational structure that we set up for the campaign, we essentially have a whole monitoring and review mechanism solely for the campaign itself. We brought into force the state level executive committee under the chairmanship of the Honorable Minister for Local Self-Governments. We had the district level organizing committee under the chairmanship of the DPC chairman. We have the Constituent Assembly Monitoring Committee under the chairmanship of the local MLA. And we also have the local self-government level committee under the chairmanship of the president. These all came into form through the main campaign government order, which is the 1068 of 2023, which also set down the timelines for following for the campaign. We also have a strong support system to handle all of this, which basically works as a think tank to support all these activities at the state and district and at the local level. Essentially, this is a state campaign secretariat, which acts as a coordinating body between all these various agencies. And we also have the district campaign secretariat at the district levels, the district enforcement squads to step up enforcement actions against public littering, etc. And we also have youth teams that are heavily involved in IEC activities. So to look at the main components of the Malinyamuktham Navakeralam campaign, we had essentially looked at the main targets which we set forth in the government order and also before the High Court. But to look at the activities as a whole, we can see that there are mainly 4 components supported by monitoring and reviewing. We can see that there is infrastructure development supported by digitalization, as we always keep emphasizing upon. There's outreach and capacity building activities that we've been doing. We've been creating a lot of policies and guidelines to essentially guide action. And we've also had legal action, rather enforcement action to support all of our activities. And we have a whole monitoring and review mechanism that's been running nonstop since the beginning of the campaign to make sure that we have everything on track and to make sure that we hit our targets on time. So as far as system building and infrastructure development is concerned, we can probably see it as 2, which is mainly waste lifting and waste processing. As far as waste lifting is concerned, the Harita Karma Senas, we are all very familiar with them. We've been trying to empower them as well. It's not just in Kerala, as far as our decentralized model is concerned, we've not just been trying to ensure that there are more Harita Karma Senas picking up waste from our households or institutions, but we've also been trying to make sure that their job profile, their salary, everything is moving towards a better situation during the campaign. So that's been one of our primary focuses also during this campaign. So even though our targets for the High Court or in our under the solid waste management rules are not as elaborated as this, but we have a very specific decentralized model in which we've been trying to make sure that everyone gets a fair share out of this. And door-to-door collection, of course, private sector involvement, we've been trying to improve as far as our forward linkage is concerned. We've had mini MCFs. Our average, we have set a target for 2 in every ward. At the local self-government level, we have MCFs, RRFs. We're all familiar with all of this. I'm not going to go into detail. As far as our digital monitoring is concerned, we've emphasized from the beginning the importance of digital monitoring through the Harita Mitram app, which we've been able to take forward, as I'll show in following slides. Waste processing, we have our CKCL, and we have our private sector involvement as well. Going into infrastructure development, we can see that there's been a lot of improvement over the last year. That is, solid waste management projects uptake by the local sub-governments had increased from 12,756 to 15,769. That's a number we had at the end of March. And project amount has seen an exponential rise, as you can see from the figures, almost a 50% increase. And then MCFs and RRFs also, we have seen a substantial increase over the last 1 year. As far as door-to-door collection is concerned, we've seen almost a doubling of our door-to-door collection. This was one of the main targets in the campaign. User fee collection has also gone almost double. Harita Karma Sena numbers have also increased. But more importantly, as I said earlier, what we've been seeing is that the Harita Karma Sena members earning more than 10,000 has seen a substantial increase. And this is something that we have to seriously consider when we see how our campaign has been going. And Harita Mitram app users also, we can see a substantial increase that's gone from 11.24 lakhs to 40.68 lakhs to now in June, we have 72.7 lakh users for the Harita Mitra app. Of course, there are glitches still, but we have a whole war room and a control room handling this from the top, and we've been trying to fix all the errors as they come along. And this is essentially a game changer as far as our waste management is concerned. Number of LSGs engaging the app has also increased over the last year. Number of LSGs employing CKCL to lift their waste was at 673. It has risen to 712. Amount transferred by CKCL to Harita Karma Sena has seen a huge increase. This essentially we can tie to the fact that this is a clear indicator of the fact that segregation by our Harita Karma Senas has also increased or bettered over the last year, which is essentially very essential to our whole decentralized approach of segregation at source. Storage facilities of CKCL has also increased substantially. Private agencies, we've been trying to get private agencies empaneled to lift the special waste, etc. That also has, we did not have any figures in March 23, but we now have an elaborate procedure to get them empaneled through the Suchitwa mission, and that's also happening right now. We saw 21 at the end of March 24, but that's now increased to 49. So policy and guidance documents also, you can see on the screen. I won't go into detail. All these guidelines to guide action at the local self-government level, we've actually put them in force till over the last year, and there are many more in the pipeline, especially policies. Quite a few are in the pipeline, which will essentially guide action over the next year. And legal action, this again is one critical step that we took. Essentially, when we talk about decentralized waste management, we tend to talk mostly about our infrastructure development, but Kerala government, what we did is at the beginning itself, we was recognized that, it would have the legal framework and in its entirety would have to be strengthened in order to ensure that the public there's a deterrent effect upon the public, and instead of, just dumping, or instead of just littering the waste somewhere, they would be prone to give it to the Haritha Karma Senas instead. And in order to do this, the Kerala government actually initiated amendments in the legal framework, both the Kerala Panchayat Raj Act and the Kerala Municipality Act. This came about in March 24. Now the punishment that can be given for littering, dumping, burning, etc. has substantially increased, and the district and local enforcement squads are also now very vigilantly following and conducting raids, etc., and trying to make sure that that sort of dumping does not take place. Capacity building activities and other rules in the form like pig farm licensing rules, etc., have also been put into place. Just to give a number, give an idea of the figures of the magnitude of this, the fine imposed went from just 2.9 lakhs in March 23 to 4.05 crores in March 24. And though we are still facing challenges in terms of actually getting the amount, but we've been imposing this much amount of fine, and we've been trying to better our systems further through other legal measures and capacity building to ensure that we actually recover all the amount that's being imposed as fine. Outreach and IEC, of course, has been one of the cardinal, the main pillars of this whole campaign, and in-person IEC, social media IEC campaigns. And what we can essentially see in all of this is the sheer innovative methods in which we've been doing this. For instance, in order to make sure that, garbage vulnerable points are taken up by the community itself, we've been having beautification points called Neha Raman, which is more than 3,000 in the state. And there's also massive open online course that we have initiated under KILA itself for spreading awareness about waste management to the general public. We brought out a theme song, there's a pledge, and also innovative measures like Youth Meets Haritha Karma Sena, where we've been trying to ensure that, Haritha Karma Senas are treated with more dignity by the general public by increasing their, the exposure of youth towards Haritha Karma Senas, so that, they work together to, at the local level to make the state more clean. And challenges, of course, remain. I think all our earlier panelists had touched upon them. So infrastructure shortfalls, both physical and human, we still face it. Facilities for special waste treatment, lack of end treatment facilities is still one of the one critical problem that we face. Essentially, all our waste is still being shipped to other states. This is leading to a lot of costs in terms of travel and storage, etc. Legacy waste is also a huge problem, especially in our city areas. NIMBY effect and lack of public cooperation is also one huge problem that we're still facing, and which we've been trying to solve through various interventions. Anyway, we've gone into the second phase of the campaign now, which is now rechristened as the Malinyamuktham Navakeralam Janagiya campaign. In this, some of the key steps that we've already been able to do by September 24 is that we already have a single WhatsApp number for reporting offenses. This is available for everyone. Anyone who sees an offense can actually report it to this single WhatsApp number. outreach to our other departments has also substantially increased. We've really had a headway with the work that we've been doing with the higher education and general education departments. School gap assessment has been initiated. So basically one of our critical steps this time is to make sure that we bring all our bulk waste generators up to par. Starting with our own institutions, our own government institutions itself, then the KSRTC bus stands and depots, tourism destinations. Work is continuing on all these fronts. And we've been trying to do all of that and much more. We're, of course, carrying on our responsibilities from the earlier campaign phase as well, trying to reach those targets as well. But essentially, this is in a nutshell, what we've been trying to do. There is a lot of, I would like to acknowledge the efforts of everyone who have been working with as part of the campaign as well, especially the State Campaign Secretariat, of which I'm also a part. So, and thank you. Thank you so much to everyone for the organizing team for having me do this presentation today. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Neha. Thank you for bringing out the institutional and legal framework lens of the project. Due to time constraints, we may not be able to take up the Q&A session right now, but we ensure that we can reply through mail. Please raise your queries or any clarifications or suggestions at the mail ID that I have dropped in the chat box, that is info@kila.ac.in. We will connect with the experts and get back to you. So now I invite Dr. Rajesh K to summarize the session and deliver the closing remarks. Rajesh, sir.
Dear all, we had an interesting discussion today. We focused the very hot subject in Kerala right now. That's the waste management, and we have tried to cover all the aspects of waste management in both the bio, non-bio, in the urban context, and also try to cover the liquid waste management issue. We tried to get eminent speakers from all the different parts of the nation, and they have been kind enough to attend the program. And I think the key takeaway of this program, this session is we should have a planned approach for decentralized waste management, and we also may require some kind of a hybrid approach in accordance with the geography and specificities of locations that is spread over Kerala. And Kerala should also, even if Kerala has good achievements in terms of bio and non-biodegradable waste, particularly in the last 1 year, but we are still lagging behind in the aspect of liquid waste management, and that should be the major focus area of waste management further in Kerala. Anyway, Kerala is moving from a larger campaign of waste management for the last year to another broader campaign by incorporating the departments. The limitation of the first session campaign was it was focusing on LSGD, where right now they are going to incorporate all the departments in Kerala, and the government of Kerala is that itself is taking up the campaign, and that's a shift from to a larger canvas. Anyway, the achievements of the first phase of the campaign is amazing, and that Neha has already presented it. So I thank all the eminent presenters for being with us and making very interesting presentations. I'm not making anybody's personally. I'm not making anybody's names, but all the presenters from starting from Josa to ending with Neha have made wonderful presentations, and they have given enough matters for us to think further and deliberate on that. So thanks all the presenters and participants for being with us for the last 2.5 hours. Thank you.
So now we may conclude the session. Thank you so much for participating in the session. I express my sincere gratitude from the side of KILA team. Thank you so much all for joining in the session.
Thank you.
this